up?
We're getting fancy over here.
It's big time now. It's big time. The Indulgent Islander Podcast, Week 9, Episode 9. Bars and burgers this week, friends. We are so excited. Tim Wood, as you can see on the screen right there, yeah. You can see our names now and everything. Tim Wood here with the man, the myth, the legend himself, Nick DeSimone. How are you, sir?
Can't complain, my friend. How about yourself?
Life is good. Life is good. Like you said, why complain? Why complain? Busy
Exactly.
days. Busy days.
Especially
We
after
actually. Go ahead.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was like, we took our partnership to a whole nother level yesterday. Like, you rode in my car, and like I was on like a speakerphone conversation, or I was party to a speakerphone conversation with your mom. It was like, we went out to lunch. I was like, wow, we're leveling up the production. We're leveling up the friendship. I'm very excited.
Yeah, I was just going to say, how could I be complaining after the day that we had yesterday? We had a great lunch. We had a great conversation, not just between ourselves, to and fro, but also you got a glimpse into the hilarity that is my family, which is always, like I said yesterday, never a dull moment on that end. But and of course,
do you
I
want
love
to
my
share
family.
any of that, or
you want to get into like parent corner, like Simmons does with Sal?
You want to share any of that in terms of what was going on there?
I think we'll hold back the details on this particular occasion, but there's just it's like when you have group texts with your friends. There's the same type of dynamic sometimes with families, and it's like a text message will be going around, and myself, my sister, my brother, we all work remotely for the most part on our primary jobs, and so sometimes if it's an email, it gets missed, and something gets misplaced. And I will say this, our response time in terms of springing into action to help problem solve when these various things happen, it's entertaining from a verbal standpoint. That's the entertaining part. But
it's like you said, it's a sitcom.
Exactly. But as you saw, it was effective. It was impactful. It arrived at a prompt, quick conclusion that was favorable. But
I know, obviously your family's Italian. My family's largely Irish. We get angrier quicker and then kiss and make up, but yeah, it was interesting listening to the whole family dynamic, and just reminded me of my family.
I've always said that, and I think that's probably why, Italian people of Italian heritage and descent are really simpatico with Irish, because there's just a lot of, there's differences, but there's a lot of similarities, especially as it pertains to the family dynamic.
Absolutely.
So, I remember when I went to college, at least half of my roommates were part Irish, and the other half were probably, part or all Italian. So definitely probably part of the reason why we found each other. But that's the perfect segue to our little news and notes section. So we're coming off of...
News and notes.
Okay.
News and notes,
That's
sponsored by our OG sponsor. And there's news on that front too this week, my friends. News on that front. Getting juicy.
Yes.
Anthony
there he is.
Moscoto.
There he is.
Anthony,
the one and only.
AnthonyandCohomes.com. Luxury real estate advisor serving Bluffton, Hilton Head, and the Low Country. Part of the Keller Williams Low Country family. 347-739-5984. Very, obviously, very excited to have Anthony part of the broadcast. We had a little banner on last week, so you got to see his face. Now you get to see the whole. I mean, look at that. Look at that. That's like dad bod on steroids.
It's really spectacular. Anthony is a high producing real estate agent. He is a dynamic coach, specifically for football, but very active in youth sports, especially with his two sons. And like I've said before, I have to always mention this: a long suffering Jet fan, and a big
Sorry.
exactly, and a big foodie like ourselves. So, as we mentioned last week, Anthony took an affinity to the podcast very quickly and essentially just reached out and said, how can I help? I'd love to be involved. And he believes in what we're doing, and we appreciate that. And we're very excited for this partnership and all the things that are going to come along with it, which we'll talk more about over the coming weeks and months. So, yes, as most everybody knows at this point, I'm a mortgage loan originator in my professional life, and I work with a lot of local real estate agents in the area. And Anthony has a stellar reputation. He lives right over here near us in Hampton Lake, and has again built that reputation on providing high, very high customer service to his clients, whether they're buyers or sellers. And we're happy to help promote him and support him, in exchange for everything that he's done to help us get our name out there over these last couple of months.
If you're in the market, check him out. AnthonyandCoHomes.com. Right on the screen there for you. But we're obviously huge fans of Mr. Anthony. So, on to the news and notes. Where would you like to start today?
So yeah, just briefly, St. Patrick's Day, St. Patty's Day. Obviously, Bluffton got theirs in on Saturday. Looked like a fun time was had by all. The weather took a turn on Sunday. It was pretty miserable out. Tornado warnings. They made the difficult decision to cancel the parade on Hilton Head. And, while seemingly the vast majority of people that were planning on attending the parade found other locations to celebrate and enjoy each other's company. I noticed there was actually quite a few people at local Legend Brewing because they just
Yes.
opened over the weekend. And so a lot of people opted for, hanging out places like that indoors. My biggest concern and my biggest sadness, I guess, or disappointment was the vendors that were going to, suffer from this. And
Yeah.
actually was able to connect with Mussolini of Remax Island Realty and the concourse of Hilton Head, because he had sent a bunch of posts on Sunday encouraging people to stop at St. Luke's specifically because they had a ton of pulled pork and pork butts and things like that. And the great news, Tim, is that I can share with you via Moose is that they sold out. So that's the good news. People came out and they got some discounts and things like that. But the important thing is that the food didn't go to waste, and they got rid of everything that they had made.
I feel bad for the organizers. I feel bad for the grand marshal who does, all the folks that signed up to be in the parade. I do wonder if, because the weather kind of blew out by, I mean, listen. Way back in the day in another life. I was the GM of the Savannah Sand Gnats, and literally every home game at 4:30 p.m. it was like literally every home game it was making a decision whether we were going to play or not. And I'd say I got it right 95% of the time, but there was like a few times where it's like, okay, we canceled it, and then it's sunny by 7 p.m. This was kind of on the cusp. It was still very windy, It was still rainy intermittently. It was not going to be a good parade day no matter what. But I feel like it was okay enough where just checking in with a lot of the restaurant friends, there was still a lot of business to be had out there on the island with the restaurants. Places like Zunzabar that are right along the parade route were selling, bands to be, a good view of the parade. They still did good. And I just, anecdotally, I don't have numbers, but anecdotally, I still heard that a lot of people were out. Maybe even more people went to restaurants because they didn't go to the parade. But I mean, that's the hope, right?
Absolutely. I mean, the thought crossed my mind as well. Later in the day when it stopped with the wind and we got a couple of spurts. And I know that a lot of times the weather over here in Bluffton can be completely different than what they're seeing over in Hilton Head. So
Yeah,
I'll go back and
yeah,
forth with my mom and dad and find out, what it's looking like over there. But at the same time, they're on the north end. Sometimes the north end and the south end are experiencing different weather patterns and precipitation and things like that. So the thought crossed my mind as well. Should they have not canceled it? Should they have just, you know, gone through with it? But you understand why they do it. Obviously, there's safety reasons and a number of other reasons why they always have to err on the side of caution. It's the same thing with school closings. I know that frustrates a lot of people. The school was closed, what was it, last week or whenever it was recently, and it was a real nothing in terms of like what we had actually ended up getting. So, like I said, the most important thing, people still found a way to have some fun, and people still spent money in the restaurants. And for an organization like a church like St. Luke's, for them to at least get whole on, or for the most part, on what they produced or what they prepared for the event, that's I think the most important thing at the end of the day.
I have no idea. I have friends who went down to Savannah for the day. Um, I've got that T-shirt long ago. I'm not a Savannah St. Patty's Day guy anymore, but I know it's a good time for sure. So I hope everybody was safe and had a good time. Um, hope they did plenty of business at the restaurants down there for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. The Savannah thing is eerily reminiscent of the days when I used to head down to Hoboken, where all my friends were, at least the ones that were working in or around New York City, would always head down for that. And I'm more of a house party person. They were talking about this on one of the Barstool programs yesterday. I feel like that's the most fun, as opposed to, being one of the guys used the term nuts to butts, standing in the bar and being
Yeah,
packed in there and waiting on lines, things like that. That's not for me. A lot of time, my move was I would go in the night before and I would hang out with all my friends at the house party. And then once the bar hopping started, I would make an early exit, an Irish goodbye, if you will, and
yes, the old
head
Irish
back to the
goodbye.
bird. Exactly. So yeah, I looked like that they had a good time yesterday too. Actually, we'll come back to this on one of our newer sponsors, was something that I saw that he had going on throughout the weekend. There's in a lot of ways they turned it into a whole long weekend celebration, which is kind of cool. So all's well that ends
Absolutely.
well.
Where do you want to go next?
So we are going to let's see, what was the other
We'll go
thing that
through
I
your
wanted to.
weekend a little bit. You started out on the island. You started out in Hunting Island, right?
I did, yes. So Saturday, my wife Jocelyn said, "Why don't we take a ride out to Hunting Island?" I had never been out there, and Juno, my rescue German Shepherd mix, absolutely loves the beach. As you know, when we get to a certain point here in the summertime in Hilton Head, there's restrictions where you can't have the dogs, you know, like what is it, after 10 a.m. or before 5 or something like that. Long
Yeah.
story short, we like to take her for walks. We'll go to Fish Hall. We'll park over there in Mitchellville Park and walk through the woods. That's what this kind of reminded me of, going to the Boneyard Beach on Hunting Island, which I understand is enormous. My only complaint was that there was no trash can closer to the beach, which is a bit of an inconvenience for those who are walking their dogs that are doing their business, as Juno likes to do very early into the walk. I just wish that they would have some sort of waste container or something that's somewhere anywhere near there. But outside of that, on the other end of the spectrum, if you're out in Hunting Island, that means that you passed through St. Helena Island.
You
And
got
if you
a you
pass
got a you got a meal out of it.
exactly, exactly. If you pass through St. Helena Island and you don't take the opportunity to stop at Beto's, you are making a big, big mistake. And I think that's the perfect way to kick off this week, where we talk about bars and burgers and, burgers and beers and whatnot, with the burger that I had over the weekend. And that was some loaded fries. That Beto's has a ton of stuff, right? So they have fried chicken sandwiches, they have chili cheese fries, they have wings, they smoke meats pretty much every week. I had some smoked ribs that were delicious. They had a fried flounder sandwich that the piece of flounder on this bun was just, I actually got it without the sandwich, but I saw someone get the sandwich when I was waiting online to order, and you could not believe the size. And we'll come back to the size of flounder and other varieties of
Yes.
that sandwich in a bit. But and my intention actually, Saturday, I wasn't planning on getting a burger. I saw that the day before that they had a mushroom Swiss burger, and that definitely caught my eye because it was something different. But I wasn't really planning on getting, and their standard burger is uh, unbelievable in and of itself. Two beef patties, Cooper sharp American cheese, which I think is the key there, fancy sauce, which is their own burger sauce, minced onions, pickles, griddled onions on a toasted potato bun. On that particular day, they had the mushroom and Swiss burger still from, when they had announced it a day or two prior. And so as this often happens, I mean, Beto's is almost an hour away from my house. So when I go there, I typically order a little bit extra so that I can enjoy it for meals later on. They also have the buns that have sort of like the everything seasoning on them, like you just saw, which is really cool. But I went with the burger. My wife actually went with a smoked chicken salad sandwich, which she really enjoyed. That was on some toasted milk bread. And like I said, I brought home the flounder basket and the smoked wings to eat later. They're also killer when it comes to, their baked goods. They have soft serve, vanilla, chocolate, and swirl with all kinds of mix-ins and toppings. They have all kinds of sauces that you can get with your sandwiches or whatever it is that you're ordering. And, they have these mellies, which are like oatmeal cream pie sandwiches. And a couple of peanut butter monster cookies. I mean, that place was really, really incredible. And, you know, I can't recommend it enough for anybody that's venturing out to that particular area of the what do you want to call it, the Sea Islands, the Harbor Islands, whatever. Um, that's something that I highly recommend people check out Beto's while you're at in that area.
Nice.
Yeah.
So, all right. So Beto's was a good day, and then yesterday, you and I ventured out to the island and got to talk to our new friends out there. Not new friends. You've been friends with them for a while. With Scott Hastings, the acclaimed chef, and his wife Jennifer, and I've been out there, but I never got to have a lengthy conversation with Scott till yesterday. That was a lot of fun, but I mean, even more so than the conversation. My goodness, did we have a meal?
We certainly did. We spent a couple hours hanging out with Scott and Jen. Like I said, great conversation. And, you know, we went outside. We went away from the burger, and we'll talk about that in a second because they have one of the best on the island. I had to go with, so they recently updated their lunch menu, and I had to go with a sandwich that I've been eyeing up for a while, which is this ahi tuna BALT, and I sometimes say BLAT, BL. So it's fresh tuna grilled to your liking. I went with a quick sear on the outside, raw on the inside, with bacon, avocado, lettuce, tomato, wasabi aioli, teriyaki, and the Parmesan chips, which we had a whole conversation about these Parmesan chips and how delicious that they are. Um, it was spectacular sandwich.
Absolute insanity
It really
on
was.
the
It was
on all
incredible.
of it. What's the
Yes,
glaze?
that's the teriyaki.
Oh my goodness. Now,
Yeah,
okay, I did want to get into this with you. I would never uh never criticize a fellow foodie's uh indulgences or ways that they like to eat. But tell me about going just that little sear. As you can see it here, I mean, Nick went borderline raw on this.
yeah. Ahi tuna is, you know, when you go to like a sushi restaurant, you get that sushi grade tuna, that beautiful pink color. I've had tuna that's cooked medium. I've had it cooked where it's, completely cooked. Um, there's a there's a place, I think it's local, that does a tuna bite where it's cooked. I can't remember off the top of my head where that was, but when it's ahi tuna, I wouldn't go with a completely rare piece of tuna on a sandwich per se, but for this type of for tuna presented in this type of way, I feel like the sear is the perfect way to do it. You get the quick sear on the outside, and then you have that beautiful raw, bright pink ahi tuna on the inside. So you get a little bit of structure on the outside, but I am a huge. I mean, I've prepared my own, you know, tuna poke type of salad with the fresh sushi grade tuna, slice it up into cubes, throw that in with some avocado, maybe some red onion, a little bit of a ginger soy vinaigrette type of thing. Obviously, is not something that you want to keep around for a while, although some people do. I saw our friend Joe Matajeski from Bluffton Pressure Washing is on some sort of diet thing, and he had a whole tub of tuna, in it, tossed in some sort of similar, vinaigrette or sauce for meal prep. But you have to make sure that obviously you want to consume that within a couple of days because you're dealing with raw fish. But for me, this type of sandwich, I think it's the best way to go personally.
I call me Padawan. I have so much to learn. I am I was just I was impressed that not only did you zone zero in on that menu with so many great choices. Um I mean, I think we both were talking about that, and Scott mentioned it too, that the short rib and grilled cheese. I mean, are you kidding me? Like, it took everything in my being to not do that, but like I was pretty zoned in on fish yesterday, so um but man, you knew exactly how you wanted it ordered, and I mean, there was nothing left on the plate.
Nothing, nothing. Maybe the very ends of the pickle because I'm just picky about the little stem part of the pickle. But that short rib grilled cheese is killer. Matt Papka commented on my post with a photo of it. I agree. That's one of the best ones. When we had back up in Jersey, when we had Grand Lux opened, which was an offshoot of Cheesecake Factory, they had a short rib grilled cheese that was killer. It was one of my favorites. This is very similar with those caramelized Vidalia onions, the provolone cheese. Like you said, it's hard not to get that. It's hard not to get that. It's hard not to get his fried chicken. We talked about while we were sitting with him the last time that I was there with my parents and my brother for dinner, and we went lobster crazy because they got a lot of really great lobster stuff on their menu, specifically on the dinner menu. And despite the fact that 3 out of the 4 of us were on the lobster kick, my mother, it's many times over her favorite. It's at the very top of the list for her for Hilton Head restaurants. she has a hard time not getting the fried chicken because that's how much she likes it, whether it's on the lunch menu, the dinner menu, or even on the brunch menu with the chicken and waffles. There's a lot of different directions that you can go here, but like you said, we decided to go with the seafood option, and you went with something that was as or more impressive than the tuna, which was a fried flounder sandwich. And let me tell you, I mean, I'm glad that you got the overhead photo because the photo that I posted was from the side, and I had to
Yes.
mention in the post that it was as big on the other side of the sandwich as on the side that I took the photo from. I mean,
And
and
I
that
I just took a little bit off the sandwich there just so people could see just how perfect the flounder was. I It's just such and listen, I'm in a spot right now with my weight loss journey where fried foods are a no-no. But I knew just from past experiences with Lulu's fried stuff that it's such a light fry and such a light breading that this didn't disappoint. It was just absolutely amazing. I mean, just that's a double serving, honestly. I mean, and I had plenty for leftovers. I could not finish it. It was amazing. I I struggled to leave some of those Parmesan chips for the second serving too, because I was like, all right, I'm not gonna finish this sandwich, so I want some of those chips to go with the sandwich on the second meal. So, but those Parmesan chips were insane. Just the breading, the flavor on the breading, the roll, the sweet roll. It was just, oh God, my mouth was watering just talking about it. It was so good. It was so good. And what I was so impressed with, we're both Northerners. Okay, we're both Northern natives. We're Southerners now, but we all came from somewhere. And being from Maine, you being from New Jersey, there's a difference in northern and southern seafood just because of the temperatures of the water. The large part of it. And Chef Hastings knows that. Jennifer knows that. And so that's a North Carolina flounder, and it's just got a different flavor to it. Whether it's the temperature of the water, um, it was just it's what I remember flounder being, and why I love flounder so much. It was amazing, and like you've said many times, you make an order and you instantly have FOMO. You're like, God, so many good things on the menu. Like, should I have gone there? Should I have gone there? Then this came. I'm like, nailed it.
and from my perspective, as much as I was excited about the tuna sandwich, that's a feeling that in under other circumstances, I would have felt the exact same way. I mean, I got to try a small piece of yours, but I had this monster piece of flounder late Saturday after we
At
got home from
Betos.
Betos,
Yeah.
and it was big and crispy, and not greasy, and the white flaky fish, as big and colossal and delicious as that was.
You're like,
This was
nobody's gonna outdo this Betos one. So
this
so
was well,
yeah.
yeah, and this was certainly on that level,
Oh
as good or better, but also two pieces on the
yes.
sandwich. So it
Yep.
almost like I couldn't even comprehend getting more flounder that I had gotten in this flounder basket from Betos, and then Jennifer comes out, or the server comes out with this sandwich with just these two giant pieces of flounder on it. You described it perfectly, Tim. Fried flounder sandwich, lightly breaded, fried. It was the breading was crispy. And like you said, very light, not greasy at all. As you can see from the photo, Tim kicked the tartar sauce to the side, not a tartar sauce guy, right?
No,
Fresh lemon, house Parmesan chips on the side. That, don't you think that says a lot about a sandwich in general? When you can eat the sandwich without even having a condiment on it?
absolutely. I think, seafood in general. Like when I have haddock, I like I like ketchup on my haddock a lot of times. Um, when I have seafood, or yeah, and when I have a piece of seafood that does not need the tartar, does not need the ketchup, does not need anything. I mean, put the lemon, squeeze the lemon on it for sure, but like it already had an insane. And when I tell you, like, lightly fried, if you're used to grilled, I will just tell you, okay? Yes, it's fried. Okay? So this is as close to grilled in terms of the consistency. I I find it just fascinating how these chefs are able to still maintain that integrity of a grilled piece, and still in a fried form. It was, and you can see just from the photo there, it it had the consistency of grilled, but then this bonus breading that was just, oh my goodness, so good, so good. So, we had a lengthy conversation with Scott and Jennifer. It was really, from my point of view. I know, like we said, you've gotten to know them very well. I've been a fan of Lulu and a diner there, but I've kind of kept low key, and just getting to talk with them and getting to talk with Scott just about how, just the different dishes that he experiments with. You can just It's just so fun. And we said it before. We've got a passion. I've got a passion for passion. So when you see a guy just sitting there, just chopping it up about just where the inspirations come from, um, and by the way, like, talking about other places too. Like he's just a fan of food done right, and happens to be a maestro at doing that himself.
Absolutely. It's always nice to hear a restaurant owner speak glowingly of other restaurants, even those that are considered competition. It was great learning more about his background. I knew some of it already as I've gotten to know him, but it was great getting to know about certain experiences and things like that he's had. And he's always thinking, of different things. He's always innovating. I mean, I was going to say, I already know that I need to get back there for lunch relatively soon because it was hard not to get that New York strip steak sandwich,
Oh my gosh.
grilled, sliced on a baguette with pickled shallots, arugula, peppercorn aioli, and also, of course, the Parmesan chips. And, we're going to talk about burgers today. Lulu's got one of the best burgers that you can find in the area, 10-ounce Wagyu with cheddar, onion ring, bacon, pickle, and of course, those chips. That's one of the better burgers. I've sent someone asked me one time over in Savannah, where should I'm going to go out to lunch with my dad? Where should I go? I said, go to Lulu's and eat the burger. And he messaged me after the fact and said, that burger was awesome. Thank you for recommending that. I like the atmosphere there. Obviously, I love the people, and it's great service, and it's never a shortage of options. It's very difficult for me to limit what I'm getting when I go there because there's so many things that I have enjoyed, and also there are always new things to try as well, which is always exciting.
The you know, I didn't count how many. It's one sided. I would say probably, what would you say, 15 options? Or am I overshooting that? Maybe 12?
We talking about the lunch
The
menu?
lunch menu? Yeah.
I would say, yeah, about 12. I mean, the newer one that they just came out with, I think has a couple more. But yeah, it's
and
it's limited, which is what I think you want at this type of place. You don't want to have too many options to choose from, but you got a couple of salads. You got, you know, the grand total, including everything on the newer menu, 13. So exactly what we said, even
so
with
my
a
point
different.
with that was that typically when I see a menu, any menu, I can go through and say, "Nah, I don't want that. Nah, I don't want that. Nah, not because it sucks. It's just I don't want that today." I literally saw it. I'm using literally a lot today. I'll get over that. I'm sorry.
It's
Uh,
okay.
I all 13 items. I was just like, okay, I gotta zone in on fish. Zone in on fish. But like, it was like, okay, we gotta be back. So, speaking of being back, and we kind of teased this a little earlier, but we have a new sponsor, and two new sponsors. But our first new sponsor of the day is Lulu Kitchen Restaurant and Bar. Uh, we went there for a conversation. We went there for lunch. We left with a new partner, which was very exciting. Your next favorite dining destination, upscale American cuisine, helmed by acclaimed chef Scott Hastings and his wife Jennifer. Their spring menu has sprung. Come sample it and join them for Easter on April 20th. Make your reservations now. For menus and to reserve online, lulukitchen-hhi.com. An open table diner's choice for 2024 and likely for 2025. 890 William Hilton Parkway, Suite 1, 843-648-5858. Welcome to the family, Lulu Kitchen.
Family is the operative word here. You're talking about Easter. Of course, I told you my mother loves this place. We took her there for Mother's Day last year for brunch. If you're celebrating a family occasion, or if you're getting together with some friends, this should be at the top of your list in terms of where you're going to go. A lot of times, people, especially whether they're religious or they're just traditional in terms of, holidays. Sometimes it's not the best way. Sometimes there's reasons why you don't want to have the holiday at home, right? Sometimes you don't want to deal with all the cooking and the cleaning and all this other kind of stuff. When you go to Lulu Kitchen for one of these occasions, it's almost like there's no disruption because, yeah, you're out at a restaurant, but you get that family feel. And it's a true family-owned restaurant. You might also see Zoe, their daughter, sometimes when she's around as a server, and it's the way that they are with their staff. We've talked about this before with Shea George. This is a team that is, it's a well-oiled machine, and it all starts at the top, right, with Scott and Jen, and they do wine dinners, they do all kinds of different events, and they'll have
Oh,
music and
yeah.
things like that. The indoor dining, they did some renovations this past year, so they did some modifications near the bar area. They
They're
have
doing
that.
some renovations on the outdoors just as we speak, I
That's
think,
right.
today.
That's
Yeah.
right. Yeah, he did say that. I forgot it. I'm glad that you remembered that to mention that because I like that outdoor area
Oh,
already, and they're going
yeah.
to be making some more improvements to that, which is really cool. He also makes all of his desserts from scratch too. So if you're going for Easter or something like that, you want to have something sweet. I can't recommend enough. The cakes and things that he makes are just to die for, both in quality and then also quantity. I mean, I'm looking at this dessert menu right now. You got like 8 different options. He does a great key lime pie, a strawberry shortcake, a white chocolate and raspberry cheesecake, and wow, this moose tracks pie, brownie, peanut butter,
All right,
moose
let's
track,
not let's
cinnamon
not
chocolate
let's not
sauce.
give it all away today. We got a few more episodes
Ooh.
to promote the guy, but
Tim, I have a real issue with peanut butter. Whenever I see something with peanut butter on it, I'm locked in.
yes.
Well, let's
So
pace ourselves. I agree.
the we just want to get this podcast off the ground. I mean, that's the first step, right? And then when you start to see people listening, we can't thank you all enough. When you start to see the numbers go up and you start to see that you're making a connection, then you start to think, okay, who do we want to partner with? And I mean, Lulu Kitchen immediately came to mind for me, just because, and this is before really even breaking bread with the Hastings. It was like I just when I go in there, that's the I it's the type of place that makes me feel at home, and everything that I've seen from them, it's like these are the type of people we want to partner with. And so to actually hear Scott say he was already listening to the podcast in the kitchen, and the whole staff was listening to it was like, like boom, like in the head. It's like wow, like very cool, very cool. So we're very excited to be partnering with Lulu Kitchen, and you'll hear plenty more about them over the course of the season here.
He's been supportive from day one, and it's just in
Yes,
his nature. And he knows that we're trying to help and spotlight a lot of these restaurants, and he cares about a lot of them, not just his own. So he is completely aligned with our mission and our goals with this whole endeavor. We very much
absolutely.
appreciate it, both of them.
Both of them for sure. Scott, Jennifer, much love. So
Yes.
we got one more news and notes, and there's the flounder again. One more news and notes item that we wanted to tackle before we get into today's main topic. Let's see here. All right. Off goes the flounder. Pi Day was March 14th. And it's become a thing here in large part due to Local Pie. Local Pie has an annual thank you for Pie Day where they do $3.14 pizzas, and they have a competition between Bluffton and the Hilton Head stores, and it gets very very competitive, very aggressive. And it was that way again this year, and for I believe the second straight year, Bluffton wins Pie Day with 1,408 pies served over the course of 11 a.m. to 8:45 p.m. Neck and neck in the first couple hours, and then Bluffton really started to take control. And I'll tell you what, it is such an impressive operation. That's Jenna. Jenna's the GM in Bluffton. You can see them with the crew. You can see all the boxes stacked in preparation. I mean, it's crazy what they do. That's Alyssa and some of the staff getting ready. The chefs in the kitchen with you see the chickens coming out of the like it's just boom 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 boom. We ordered. Here's the pie dough that they had 1,400 pie doughs ready to go, and there's been some lessons learned through the years, and I went in Wednesday on the 12th just to kind of get a lay of the land of where things were at and what Jenna's strategy was, and selfishly when I should be ordering. We ended up ordering. We got a boatload of pepperoni, the usual. I think we got a margarita, some cheese. They offered all their classic pies, and it's an amazing thing they do. $3.14 personal 10-inch pies. It's about $6 off of the usual. And and it was an event. It was something to see, just the organization, and honestly, just a restaurant giving back to their customers. Just it's really their customer appreciation day, and it's they definitely have a wow factor going with it.
That number is mind-boggling. Over 2,500 pies between two locations.
Yeah,
My mother's a retired geometry and algebra 2 teacher. So every once in a while, she'll actually have people wish her a happy birthday on Facebook on March 14th because she's celebrating the day and they don't realize it's not her birthday. It's just that she loves Pi Day because she's a math nerd.
there you go.
So I love the tie in with the date. I love the discount. I love the appreciation for the customers. And more importantly than anything else, the amount of work and preparation that goes into this monumental task. It's a credit to Lee, and the whole team over there in Hilton Head and in Bluffton.
Absolutely.
Really, really cool. Really, really, what's the word that I'm looking for? You know, it's just it's very sort of humbling and you know, rewarding thing. I'm sure for an establishment like this to have such an amazing turnout from customers, new and loyal, right? Because those numbers are not. I mean, I can't even wrap my head around. I'm sorry, I'm at a loss for words. The
So
2,500 pizzas. I don't even know if that would fit in this room.
so she said you want to. She told me you want to order to pick up between 4 and 5. That's when things start to slow down a little bit. There's lines out the door at lunchtime. Listen, there's people that go in there and they're like, expecting to get in and out of there in 15 minutes. It's not gonna happen. Okay, there's a wait. It's worth the wait. They had, I think they had free shots this year just to kind of chill everybody out and get them used to, that it's coming, but you're deep in line. And we called in about 2:30 because we knew there'd probably be about an hour and a half, 2 hour wait. We picked up right around 4:30, and you're thinking, okay, 1,400 pies, 2,500 pies total. Quality's got to slip, right? Okay, for $3.14, I shouldn't expect a lot. No, 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 no. They were just as delicious as any other time I've gotten them, and my sons can attest to it because they they reordered, and so I think we ended up all told with about 9 boxes,
Oh my goodness!
and they cleaned up. It was all gone by Saturday, dude. That was Friday. It was all gone by Saturday. I mean, I think I
That's
had two
incredible.
slices total, maybe three, and the
Yeah.
rest was, a little bit of Debbie and a whole lot of Jake and TJ. So, thank you for feeding us local pie. It was really something to behold, and it's just a testament. Honestly, that's the restaurant industry in general down here, and that's why Nick wants to advocate so hard for them. That's why he wanted to start Indulgent Islander, why he wanted to start the podcast, why I wanted a team with him is, man, the work they put in, the care they put in, the relationships they build with their customers. It's unlike anywhere I've been, and I've lived in a bunch of places. This is my adult hometown. We've been here, for 20 years. But before that, being in the media industry, we jumped around a lot. And um, I've been a lot of places, including New York, and I've just never seen the care that the restaurant industry down here puts into everything they do, and just has such a relationship with their customers.
It's very well said. I couldn't have really said it any better myself.
I think that's it for the news and notes. Yeah, or did you have anything else you wanted to mention?
No, I think that's it for the news and notes. Like we said before, we're talking about burgers and bars here. Um, bars and burgers, burgers and bars. I just wanted to give a quick shout out to the beginning, because a lot of times people will say, where do you find the best burger? So we've talked about Beato's, we talked about Lulu, just to kind of circle back to previous episodes. Of course, Shea George is right up there when you're talking about best burgers. So we've covered them on prior episode with upscale dining, where we also talked about Lulu, but specifically that hamburger maison with the au poivre aioli, pickled tomato, whiskey onions, aged raclette, white cheddar, brioche bun. It's a different burger, right? But still as good as it gets. They got great fries there too, frites. And as we've talked about several times, I love their French onion soup. So if you could pair those two together, highly recommend. Shea George is open for lunch every day except for, I want to say Sunday, which is that's their brunch day. But just wanted to give them a quick shout out, because again, when you're talking about burgers, that's right up there. And actually, they don't do lunch on Saturday as well. So the only days that there's no lunch is Saturday and Sunday. But that's Sunday is reserved for the brunch. So I wanted to give them a quick shout out. And another one that we've mentioned, of course, many, many times, our friends over at Tin and Tallow, which, up until recently couldn't call that a bar, but with this permanent brick and mortar location where they have beer and cocktails. They did a cocktail tasting over the weekend and wine. They're coming out every week with action as far as live events go, music. They're doing movies. They're going to have Back to the Future this week. So we don't need to. I mean, we can't use enough superlatives to describe how the impact that this place has made in such a short period of time. But it has to be part of the conversation as well when you're talking about the best burgers. And even though they're just sort of getting started with the bar aspect of things, pretty soon they'll have that bar that's indoor, outdoor. It's just become a great location and a great gathering place. And, had to give them a quick shout out as well, considering
That
the subject matter of this episode.
that big, the big screen setup they have outside, um, it is it's really spectacular. You see it from the highway. Um, I just yeah, I'm blown away by their burgers. I'm happy. It makes me happy every time I do trivia out there on the island on Thursday nights. And so, I'll drive out right around 5:45. I'll head back probably about 8:15, 8:30. Pass them both ways. Parking lot always filled, and it makes me happy. It like when you see somebody take a big swing, and then the parking lot's full. Same thing with same thing with flatbread grill over in Bluffton. I mean, these are people do not can't comprehend. It's like, oh, okay, it's another restaurant. Okay, yeah, another restaurant. You can't even comprehend the amount of work, the amount of funding, the amount of sweat, tears, anxiety, uh, like just to get to the beginning, just to get the doors open. So to see what they're doing, it's kudos to them, because that's the product. That's the product. That's the to establish a brand and a following as quick as they have. It just it's like I said, just it makes me happy to see people catching on to something that deserves to be caught on to.
It's remarkable. And I said almost the same thing that you just said when I did a quick video when I was there. I can't remember if it was last week or the week before. I was lured in by that blue burger, and as I often am with the additions that they come out with every week, I actually need to get back there and just get back to basics with the regular burger, because my friend Troy and her husband were sharing just the regular burger, and I saw the chopped pickles up in there, and I was be like, I can't remember the last time that I actually got their standard burger, because I get sucked in by the specials, because you don't want to miss out on that. And I stood in the parking lot and I just did a quick pan, and had somebody bust my chops, and they said more food, less cars. But I had to show that at 1 o'clock on a weekday afternoon, it wasn't packed in the outside area like it normally is on the weekends. But like you said, it puts a smile on my face every time I drive by, and just standing in that parking lot, just taking a look around and seeing how busy it was. I mean, vendors were dropping off things and whatever, but you had people hanging out inside. Some people were getting work done. You had people just sitting there having lunch. My realtor friend, Becca Hawkins, met someone there for lunch. We were chatting it up outside. It was her first time. She was hooked immediately after. So I don't know what I've been missing here. So yeah, I couldn't be happier for them to get this up off the ground. Tyler and Jazzy have done an amazing job, and this is really, it's become an immediate destination for residents, and I'm sure we're going to see the same when tourist season gets fired up. I think there's going to be a lot of people coming onto the island saying, "Ooh, I can't check in until 3 o'clock. I think they can need to stop over and get a burger."
Absolutely, absolutely. It's gonna be fun to see how. Okay, because listen, they've obviously handled crowds with the food truck. Now they've handled crowds with the restaurant. Okay, how are you going to handle the tourist crowd? It's I just again, whether you want to call it inside baseball or you just like I don't know, like fanboy of entrepreneurs. I love to see how it all comes together, and how they react, and how they excel and why they excel. Um, I'm always learning. I think, and I think honestly, the things that you see in the restaurant industry, in terms of the excelling and the adjusting on the fly, yeah, fanboy, but like, there's a lot of learning to be had just in whatever industry you're in, to see a restaurant when it's clicking on all cylinders. And so yeah, that's I think Nick and I definitely agree on that. And again, it's why we wanted to do this podcast, is just to give shout outs to the folks that are doing it right. Before we get into Mr. Nick's list, speaking of people doing it right, we have another new sponsor to introduce. Dun, 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 dun!
Need more drops.
Yes, another new sponsor. Let's see who this is.
Oh, as I live
We,
and breathe.
we have talked about AMA dining. Um, Nick has had a lot of experience with Antonio Mancini Albano. Um, I will do the read, and then Nick, you can do the talking, because you've had the most experience with AMA. Top rated personalized personal chef services, serving Beaufort County, Savannah, Charleston, and the surrounding areas. You see the video, you see how he's doing it. Um, Check him out. Book Antonio now at amaprivatedining.com, 908-477-6043. Nick, this has got to be, I mean, every sponsor is exciting, but this has got to be even more exciting for you, because you've really embraced what Antonio's been doing from the jump here.
I'm not sure if we've talked about this before on a previous episode, but the way that Anthony and I connected was extremely unique. He reached out to me from seeing what I was doing on social media, on Instagram and Facebook. He's been in the area for 8, I think going on 9 months. He's from New Jersey like me, more central than northern New Jersey, where I'm from. But, you recognize right away, you see those area codes. I'm 201, he's 908. So he reached out to me and he paid me a really nice compliment. He said, I really like what you're doing. He said, there's really nobody else in the area that's approaching this like the way that you are with your content and getting more exposure and spotlighting these restaurants and advocating for them. And I was blown away, honestly. I was just, like I said before, humbled by that someone would contact me. And so he approached me about he wanted to connect and talk about what he was doing and what I was doing and see if we could somehow, help each other out. And I mean, it's a no brainer as far as I was concerned. We talked about Tin and Tallow really exploding on the scene and in a little over a year getting their brick and mortar location. Antonio is incredibly, almost unbelievably busy already. And there's been a social media marketing effort. He's enlisted certain people to assist in that
It's
endeavor,
made
such as
great
Sage
partners
Thorson.
too.
Yeah, exactly. He's got most recently Sage Thorson with Alana Media is helping him out with some social media stuff. Because of him, I got to participate in that dinner that we talked about last week at the May River Manor, the locals serving locals. He's doing a lot of stuff with Cassandra's Kitchen. He's doing stuff with Hardy Greens. He's doing stuff with Olio Le Carice, an olive oil company locally that gets their olive oil from their olive orchard or farm, whatever it's called, out in Italy. He's made a number of connections for me right off the bat. I've gotten to eat his food. Of course, he did the well-documented collaboration with School Pizza on that sweet sausage, pickled banana pepper, and AMA private dining spicy ranch dressing that was drizzled on the top. He's a great person. He is an extremely hard worker. He's got a wife and a young daughter at home, and I am beyond impressed at the way that he is able to balance his work life, his family life, and leave a little bit of time for himself and finding moments in between here and there to decompress and diffuse. He's at the farmer's market almost every week shopping for stuff. He's aligned with, as many other, local food trucks and things like that, as aligned with, they have to align with the specific kitchen. I'm not going to speak out of turn and say who, but he's approached everything the right way in terms of how to build his business with relationships. Um, when I text Antonio, I know that I'm probably not going to hear back until at the very earliest later that day, or maybe even a day or two later. That's how one after another, his schedule is blocked off. He was in Savannah, Tim, this entire weekend for different events that he had been, contracted for. I saw some of the dishes. Of course, it was very Irish centric. He doesn't just cook Italian food, although that's obviously his area of specialty. The meal that I had at May River Manor a couple of weeks ago was just spectacular. Yes, I know for a fact we also talked about the delivered meal that we did for Valentine's Day with very specific instructions on how to prepare everything. I'm positively thrilled that we're partnering up with him, that he's jumping on as a sponsor with us, because it's exactly what we've been looking for, meaning he and I individually, with what he's doing and what I've been doing, and to be able to strengthen that partnership with a sponsorship is, I'm delighted by it. And I'm very grateful to have connected with him and we become fast friends. He understands me. I understand him. I'm not going to say that we have everything in common, but coming from the same place and the way that we look at and think about food and restaurants and chefs and all these things. I mean, a couple of weeks ago, we talked about Tin and Tallow. A couple of weeks ago, he texted me what his bill was at Tin and Tallow because he had family in town. Like, I'm talking a dozen or two family members. And you should have seen the receipt for the order that he picked up at Tin and Tallow because he's fallen in love with them as well. And he bought dinner for his entire extended family. That's what they ate that weekend when they gathered and got together. So
The I think that what I've seen from Antonio, and I do a lot of small work with small businesses with my company and a lot of consulting, and new businesses that come into the area. It's always they're always the question is, how do I connect? Like everybody thinks, just social media. Okay, social media is one part of it, okay, and they've done that right, but you've gotta immerse yourself in the community. You have to let people know that you are you're not just taking money from them, that you are part of the community, that uh, that you're going to immerse yourself, that you're not going anywhere. That's the quickest way, is obviously the quality of your work, but to make an impression like you've been here for a long time because of how you embrace the community. And then it's just partnering as much as you can with local businesses. And my goodness, has this guy just gone to town on that, and has if I could have just crafted a list, like if we had never talked before, I'd crafted a list of who should you get in contact with. I mean, literally every um, vendor that you've mentioned at these different events that he's been. It's like you couldn't have picked them any better. So, shout out to AMA Private Dining, Antonio Mancini Albano, Private Chef Services. So excited to have those guys on board for the ride here on the early adopters of the sponsorship scene, and another new member of the Indulgent Islander family. Again, AMAprivatedining.com, 908-477-6043. All right, Nick. It's
oh, and
time.
if you mention the Indulgent Islander podcast, you can get $100 off your event.
Whoa! That's what's up.
Yes.
Wow. Hello. All right. Very nice. Hey, before we get into today's topic, very quick, because I just got a text message, and we record this, but one of my friends was watching last week's episode and hit me up, and he was just like, "Hey, Tim, great! You guys have amazing chemistry. It's so fun to listen and watch, but why are you always looking down?" It's like, all right, little behind the scenes. I produce the show. Like all the graphics you see as we're going, I produce everything. Everything's so I'm clicking, I'm getting the next scenes ready, I'm getting the next pictures ready. Um, so yeah, that's and truthfully, a lot of times I find I've been in media I've looked into cameras for 25 years now, but I find myself looking at my screen, looking at Nick. Because it's like, so rather than just looking at the screen, I'm like looking at Nick to see his expression. So yeah, that's why I'm not always looking directly in the camera. Or Nick isn't either. Nick's got the websites up, wants to get as much information out as possible when we're talking about these restaurants. So there you go, a little inside the Indulgent Islander.
I was going to say the same thing. You probably got people asking. I had my friend Peter or a couple of different friends, a couple different reels and things that I posted. Why do you keep looking? Like when I was at School Pizza, like at Side Hustle. Why you keep looking over here while you're talking? Because I'm like, there's a line that's about to wrap around the building to get this pizza, and I just, I'm doing my thing, but I can't help looking over because I have I don't I'm not saying I'm attention deficit, but I have just a endless thirst and unquenchable thirst for information and observation. It's not because I'm nosy or anything like that. It's just because I'm trying to take in as much of this stimuli as I possibly can. It drives my wife nuts sometimes. There's no question about that. But yeah, if I'm looking over to the side, it's because I'm looking at this website for the next restaurant that I'm going to talk about. If you see me turn around looking like this, maybe it's because one of my beasts got into the room. It's why I don't bring the kitten up here, because I would literally be like this the whole time that we're recording. What's he getting into now? Juno was just sitting
Scratching
here on the
off all
couch.
the posters in the background. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. He got in here yesterday, somehow pushed the door open. He was in here unsupervised. There's a lot of stuff that I don't want him, in and around. I had Juno sitting on the couch right here next to me. Then she heard Jocelyn get home, so she jumped down and was kind of looking over for her, permission to leave the studio here. So yeah, we got a lot of stuff going on. Like you said, people don't realize sometimes what goes into making the sausage and all of the behind the scenes stuff. Tim does way more than I do in terms of, producing this from a content perspective. Our chief creative officer, as I like to call him. So the amount of time and effort that goes into this, especially for the visual presentation, the video version, which I really feel is, sometimes people like to multitask. They want to use their favorite podcast, avenue or vehicle to listen to it. I also think it's a lot of fun to watch because you get to see photos of all this beautiful food, which again is how all this started for me, was just documenting things that I was eating and trying at all of these different restaurants and food establishments.
Yeah, we want to obviously I we take a lot of cues. Nick and I are big fans of Howard Stern, big fans of Dan Patrick, big fans of Pat McAfee. So like to take a lot of cues in terms of just how they produce their shows. And yeah, yes, it's for audio, it's a podcast, but we have so many people watching too, whether it's on Facebook or YouTube. And again, you see the information on the YouTube channels. Watch it at the Indulgent Islander on YouTube.com. Look for that the hungry, that if you see that banner at the top of this page, you're on the right page. Accept no substitutes. um, and the other thing, yeah, as we were talking, people have said, you guys are so personable with each other. Uh, Want to see more of your lives. Well, okay. Nick's mentioned the beasts. We'll get our beasts. We'll show you some pictures of our beasts in the future episodes. Nick's got some cats, and Juno, the dog, and Ronan, the cat, and I've got a couple of rescue pups, Holly and Layla, and you'll see them and hear about them in future episodes. We're listening. We hear you. You want to see more? We'll show you more. So.
Like you said before, you want parent corner, be careful what you wish for,
Yeah,
but you got to give
exactly.
the people what they want.
So, burgers, bars and burgers. That's our topic for this week. That's the main topic for this week. So, I just feel like these two are nicely paired because they're so overlooked. I think what makes a good bar, what makes a good burger is so overlooked. When you get on a menu like for instance, Lulu Kitchen, uh, you're like, I don't want a burger. There's too many other great things. Well, a great chef is as good at making a phenomenal burger as they are at anything else on their menu. They don't take anything for granted. And when you talk about the list here in terms of what we're talking about this week, to me, that's what, when I look at what you picked and who you picked, that's what stands out for me. Like it's attention, and we've talked about this so many times, right? The experience. We don't want to be broken records, but the experience that you get going to these establishments, going the quality of the libations that you're drinking, the attention to the juiciness and the uh, flavor profile of the burgers, right? Of the fries, of the sides, whatever it is. You know, you mentioned the fries with Chez George, phenomenal shoestring fries. Um, just about every place we talk about, the fries were just as much of an attraction. Fair to say?
Absolutely. All like different and unique in their own way. I feel like you can't talk about one without the other. And I know that we call this bars and burgers. I'm more of a beer person myself. Like, don't get me wrong. If I'm going out to
Yes.
have a nice Italian dinner, I might go with a Tito's, extra dirty martini with a couple of blue cheese stuffed olives. Like, I'm good for a cocktail, here and there. But for the most part, we're going to focus on the places where you can sit down, have a burger, some fries, maybe you're going tots, maybe onion rings, whatever it is that you're doing. You're going to have a beer. If you don't drink, that's fine too. You and I yesterday I think you were stuck with water and I did an Arnold Palmer with unsweet tea, which is my move. So it's really, when we say bars, we are going to talk about, in future episodes, we'll talk about drinks and cocktails and things like that eventually, but this is a food show.
Yes.
So this is about, where can I go? Where can I go meet my buddy? Where can I go take my family? Where can my wife and I go to sit down and have a burger and maybe a beer, maybe just a soda or whatever, if I'm not going to, drink any alcohol on that particular night. And as I go down this list, that's exactly what I've done pretty
Yes.
much at just about every one of these places. And that's kind of how we came up with this particular category, focusing on the burgers. But as always, we're going to incorporate other elements into it as well.
And that's why I put the beer mug and the burger in the intro, because it's like, beer and burger pair perfectly together. And yes, yeah, I'm as I mentioned, I'm at a spot in terms of my weight loss where beer's on the low right now, but I've had my share of plenty of beer from all of these establishments, and I will have plenty more in the future. Um, but they all do it the best. They all have created an ambiance. Nick, what do you look for? I described how I feel about burgers. Like, where do burgers fit into your universe?
Well, it's interesting because now that the weather's starting to warm up, we'll grill burgers just like we'll grill steaks just right here at home. And
Absolutely.
we'll do a couple of different kinds and things like that. Last time I was up in New Jersey, a friend of mine had one of those, hot plate things to go on top of his grill. And the meal that night was kind of slider type burgers. So when you're talking about going out and having a burger, I like to eat a lot of different things. So like we talked about earlier on in the show, sometimes it's difficult to go to these places because, like, if it's Chez George, yes, the burger's spectacular, but they have this new merguez sausage sandwich, and like Lulu, we had so many other things that were pulling us away from the burger. So it's tough because, and then not to mention, you have things that have become such a craze, like Tin and Tallow, like Slap Truck. Matt does some pretty amazing burgers on there too. So
Loco Grub.
Loco Grill. Yeah, so you have all these food truck. Like there's so many burgers. So a lot of times, for me at least, it's maybe an ingredient or two, or something that in particular that's drawing me to a particular burger, or maybe, like we said, there's other elements that are included here. Maybe it's just somewhere where it's just become second nature, a place that we just like to go and plop down. Maybe the staff there, we like socializing, excuse me, with them. Maybe there's something that we want to watch. Maybe there's a band or somebody that we want to listen to. And I just feel like if you're going out to dinner fairly regularly and you're trying all these different kind of things, I feel like a lot of times people will just say, I'm just in the mood for a burger tonight. And so I'm not very particular about, obviously I prefer to have high quality ingredients and things like that. A lot of people are calling their burgers smash burgers, and it's the smash burgers is a specifically prepared a certain way type of burger. But we had a whole episode on comfort food. Burgers at the top of the list as far as comfort food, and I feel like it's a thing where a lot of people, unless they're vegan or vegetarian, can kind of meet in the middle. Because if you're eating meat, you know I don't really know too many people that eat meat that say I don't like a burger. So I feel like it's a unifying thing that brings people together. But I also feel like with pizza, people can have very strong opinions one way or another.
Oh yeah.
So, as with anything that we talk about, this is just a list. It's not in any particular order, but this is where I like to go. And, we do a lot of stuff that we do with takeout, and really, there's a couple of exceptions here where I might take something out to go. I don't often take burgers out to go, but some of these are actually options for that. We'll talk about that more specifically. But there's just so
I
many
don't know
different
if it was
directions that you
I
can
don't know
go
if
in.
it was on purpose with this list. But I did feel like a lot of those places, and we'll get, again, we don't want to teach you too much here, but I felt like a lot of the places on your list, I've had takeout from all of them, and they're among the best in terms of they hold up very well in takeout.
They for sure do, for sure. I think maybe it has more to do with not necessarily the way that the food shows up, but just you know the experience of sitting down and having a burger and a beer is something that you typically prefer to do on location. But I'm not going to say that I haven't ordered takeout from any of these places, or eaten there and taken additional food to go, which is one of my patented moves, because I
Yes.
like to plan my meals in advance. And sometimes I'm not satisfied unless I got to try one or two extra things, even though I might not be eating it until later.
But how long did it take your wife Jocelyn to just get used to that? To just get used to the fact that you're coming out of, like, this past weekend, you're coming out of Betos with what, like 5 or 6 additional meals?
When you say used to it, I don't know if she'll ever be used to it. The first thing that she said when I
Apologize
got
later
into
sort of move.
well, when I came, I made 3 trips to the car Saturday. I carried the sodas out, Diet Coke for me, Coke for her. She doesn't really drink soda that often. Once in a blue moon, she buys a 12-pack of Coke and it lasts months here. Sometimes it actually doesn't last. It goes bad because it sits in the garage for so long. It's a very infrequent thing for her. There's a story with my wife where she used to walk what you would be considered a pilgrimage down a really long hill and then all the way back up a really long hill just for one can of soda because her parents didn't keep soda in the house. So that's a special treat for her. But then I took a second trip out to the car because I got lured in by a butterfly pea lemonade and a blueberry iced matcha, which I thought would be nice treats for each of us. And then finally, trip number 3 out. And actually, I think one of those trips included the the dessert type stuff that I got, muffins for the next morning and things like that. So when I finally got into the car with the shopping bag on trip number 3, she said, "How much did you get?" And it's just like I said earlier, if I'm going to drive almost an hour somewhere, and I've been looking at photos for weeks of all the different things that they've been smoking and cooking and serving, I'm sorry, but I'm going to cash in, because chances are I'm probably not going to get back to a place like Beto's for probably a couple more months.
Yeah.
So, I'm not going to go absolutely bonkers. I ate my burger and my cheese fries in the car, and I took everything back home. I had the fried flounder platter for dinner, and actually just I got around to eating the smoked ribs last night, which was, two days later, and they were absolutely still fall off the bone incredible. Just need to be reheated a little bit. So
Awesome.
I don't think she's ever really gotten used to it. I think, but she's accepted it, and that's kind of, what you're going to get when you're going out to eat with the Indulgent Islander. The name comes from somewhere.
Yeah, it's the name. Name's no accident.
Yeah, we don't false advertise here. We are who we say we are, Tim.
Boom.
Yes.
All right, the list. Let's get to it.
Let's get right to it. We're going to go hot right out of the gate. One of the first places that I started to have an affinity for, not long after we moved here, we stumbled upon Craft Kitchen in Bluffton Village, and we were immediately hooked. Not just because they have, I don't know, a dozen or more different beers on tap every day that are constantly circulating. They give you a whole booklet of beers that you can take to go. I mean, early on in the process, I got built sort of a reputation there, because the owner, excuse me, every time we would go and have lunch, I'd be walking out of there with a box of beer. And I have similar things when I go to Two Ties in Savannah and other places, Side Hustle and whatnot. I had to start to pump the brakes on that, because the beverage fridge can only fit so many cans of beer. So there you're showing, I want to say that's the single smash, which is pretty much one of my wife's go-tos at Craft Kitchen. We'll sit down, we'll either meet for lunch or we'll go there together for lunch on a weekend. She goes with the single beef patty, American cheese. Again, this is a true smash burger. Beef patty, American cheese, sauteed onions, pickles, plural, burger sauce on a brioche bun. The buns at Craft Kitchen are delectable, nice soft buns. The beef patty is juicy. It's a smash, not a super thin smash, but a smash nonetheless. And again, American cheese, sauteed onions, pickles, burger sauce. Now, what's happened more recently, and you're seeing a chicken sandwich here, which there's a whole another 4 more of those.
Oh yeah.
What's happened recently with Craft Kitchen is they made some changes, some significant changes in lieu of, in more specifically, not in lieu of, they made specifically changes in terms of the amount of options that they had. So we went from just a smash burger, single or double, to adding the Jersey burger, which adds the pork roll and the fried egg, the sweet and spicy island burger, where they throw on fried pineapple, the hot pickled cherry peppers, which I believe are on the cheesesteak. They add the sauteed onions, Swiss cheese on that one with a chili garlic barbecue sauce. And then the CK burger, the Craft Kitchen burger, which is fried pickles, arugula, tomatoes, beer cheese on a pretzel bun. I had that the last time that I was there, and it was awesome. Now, we're not going to spend too much time on this because we're talking, beef burgers. They also have a black bean burger. So if you're vegan, vegetarian, go with that bean and corn patty, and you won't be disappointed with that either. But I love their burgers. If you throw bacon on that burger,
Look at that
that's a great
bacon.
addition. It's
I mean,
spectacular.
yeah.
Yeah, crispy,
It.
couple slices of crispy bacon, and their fries, man. I mean, I
Oh
would call them
goodness.
steak fries, but kind of somewhere in between, right? A
Yes.
real
That's very
thick,
fair.
yes,
It's a thick cut fry, and
yes,
they put a seasoning on it that it's not overpowering, but it's not like a Cajun, but it adds just a nice level of flavor to the fries, uh, with a little salt, a little ketchup. Oh my goodness, so
They're
good.
perfectly seasoned. That's good with the ketchup. I actually like to get a side of that beer cheese to dip them in. So I'll go with that sometimes. I mean, they're fries. You can
Right
get
there, that beer
bacon.
cheese. Yeah,
Yes, exactly. You can get bacon cheese fries, as an appetizer. You
yeah.
can get the fries with beer cheese sauce, chopped bacon, and scallions. That's good too. But more often than not, I'll get a burger with fries, a side of the beer cheese, and then I might throw a little something extra. I might do, a cheesesteak, just a sandwich, a chicken sandwich, just a sandwich. I don't know that I would finish all of that in one sitting. The menu hack here, since they expanded the menu, is for the most part you can actually interchange these burgers with the chicken sandwiches. I saw a
Yes.
guy, I think I told you this story, where I saw a guy sit down and ordered the sweet and spicy island burger and swapped out the beef patty with the fried chicken breast,
Oh yeah.
and my eyes popped out of my head. So I think there was a recent time too where I did something similar to that, where I might have gone with you know a, a, um, a seared chicken instead of the fried chicken, the style of that one of the burgers can, or something like that. I love that there's some flexibility there with being able to interchange that stuff. The beer selection is endless. Again, I love that
That's just the
cheesesteak. I know,
tap wall. That's just the
right?
tap wall that we're showing. I mean, they've got so, and I love again craft kitchen. They are really looking for craft beers. They are really.
Exactly.
I'm not gonna say they're snobs,
No,
but it is a favorite of the Low Country Beer Enthusiasts Facebook group because they really do. They curate their lists magnificently, and they're always bringing in new cans. Uh, they're I mean, it just like you said, you end up bringing home like 10 cans of beer just to try some different flavors with your burgers. It's the Coles. It's Vincent and Desi. Vincent's the chef. Desi is the front of house manager, and his wife, and they have been absolutely uh, working their tails off since the day they opened, and I mean they made an immediate impression. But like you said, their willingness to mix and match and I'm not gonna say on demand, but like you know if you got a hankering for something, you're gonna find that in the mix at Craft Kitchen. And this is a place where it's like, oh, we're just talking burgers. Like I showed the picture of the chicken. The chicken is uh, otherworldly there. They've had meatloaf again. I've talked about that in past episodes where
I got to try
I'm a
that.
meatloaf snob,
Yeah,
but their meatloaf is amazing. Um, there's so many things on that menu, and again, not a huge menu, but they've done some expanding. They're constantly playing with the mix. They know they're very attentive to what's working and what's not really catching on, and they're constantly switching things up. And again, we're not talking desserts today, but they have some little cheesecake bites that are are delectable. Uh, they are the perfect amount of evil in terms of uh, um, spiking your diet a little bit.
great option for parties or small gatherings. I used to go there and I used to say to Jocelyn, I wish they just had a couple other items, and I never said it, but my wish came true because they added, one or two apps. They add, I love that kohlrabi salad or the kohlrabi slaw that you can get on the side. They're up to six signature dishes. The Cuban's good. The cheesesteak, like I said, is good. You can get the beer battered fish and trips. I tried those one time. Those were delicious. I love everything about this place. I love the friendly service. I love the atmosphere. It's always super clean. I hit the nail on the head right there with the 12 options on tap, but endless other options. It's really perfect for my wife and myself because she likes stouts, and she skews more towards the dark end of the beer spectrum, whereas I'm big on sours and wheats, and they'll always have at least a couple of sours. And it's cool because you can get beer from pretty much any brewery across South Carolina, North Carolina. Like, you go through the book with all its different sections, and it's broken up into the categories. So you'll see that first page will give you more detail on what they have on tap, but then the subsequent pages will give you endless options, and then even seltzers and non-alcoholics and everything like that. It really is the perfect place in Bluffton for the beer enthusiast. And I don't know anybody honestly that's come out of there and said, I wasn't a fan of this or that. There's somehow amazingly there's still a segment of the population that doesn't know about them.
That's a great point. It's a great point.
Yeah,
They
boggles
don't
my
do
mind.
a ton of marketing. They're not huge on social media. This
Right.
has really been a word of mouth grow. And again, like, everybody does it differently. Like, as long as you're finding your people, I don't think there's any one right way to do it. And Craft Kitchens proved it, quite honestly, because they've put all their money into the product, very little money into marketing, and they are, like you said, there's a lot of folks that still don't know. I hope we help here. Um, Give it a try. Give it a try. Definitely a reason why Nick brought it up first, and why it's on the list. So there is your first on the Indulgent Islanders list.
Bring it. They got a couple tables outside, and they also, you can have parties there. And my
Yes.
family, my brother and sister and my cousin, they actually order takeout from there quite a bit. And my parents, even when they're over here in Hilton Head, if like they have somebody has a doctor's appointment or something like that, my parents are hooked too. They'll stop there if it's later in the day. They'll pick up dinner and bring it back home, or they'll just go there and get something to eat if they're time to kill in between appointments and so on and so forth. Nice. About 4 or 5 screens too above the bar too, so a good spot
Yes.
on the weekend. You got the NCAA's coming up
Yep.
this week. Great spot to sit and watch some games as well. I love everything
And
about it.
and I'll just give you a quick hack too. Hot day, you want to sit outside, sit around the back. Just enough sun, just enough shade. You're gonna get a little breeze in the back there because they're right near the road. Not too loud though, but you're gonna get enough of a breeze. You're still gonna get the heat. That's that would be my hack on a hot late spring summer day. So, all right,
Absolutely.
let's move on with the list. We've got Craft Kitchen there. What are we adding next?
I'm just noticing when we go to our friend Pete's website at Slider Bar, and you may have had something to do with this. My mouse arrow is a burger.
That is me.
Fantastic job, my friend. Slider Bar.
And
One word,
by the
right?
way, let's just be clear. Like, I had nothing to do with this list. This is Nick's list. Yes, I do some work for Slider Bar, so I was happy to see it on the list. But yeah, and I did the website. So carry on, my friend.
It's really sharp. When we heard that this was coming in, we talked about Agave Sidebar and how they moved into the Old Town dispensary space. And it was like, okay, well, what's going to go into where Sidebar was? And we all really lucked out because Slider Bar slid right in there. And these all beef sliders made with a brisket short rib chuck combo patty, BSC as they call it. I mean, listen, I think of Slider, I think of the original Slider, like a White Castle, or if you're a tri-state area person, the White Manna was our local version of that. These are sliders on. We made a joke yesterday at lunch where we were talking about a certain sandwich being on steroids. These sliders are literally on steroids. both in the size. It's really a little bit bigger than your traditional slider. You'll see the order of 3 there. I love the fact that you can mix and match. You can try one of a couple of different kinds. You can add a patty to any
They have
slider for
flights, yeah,
$3.
flights, slider flights. I'm sorry to cut you up.
Yes. I'm sorry. I misunderstood that second word. Flights. Yes. Perfect term, right? So you can go through this and you can just choose a couple different ones. The ones that jumped out, excuse me, that first day that I was there was ironically one of the ones that I remember most notably was the Bon Mishroom, which is actually a marinated portobello. Now, for someone like me who's a big meat eater, and when we're talking about burgers, I'm very rarely going to talk about burgers that aren't made with beef or some sort of meat.
I'm shocked
The
to hear you
Bon
say this, honestly.
the
Yeah.
banh mi shroom that because you know what it is. I also because I think I'm a big fan of banh mi sandwiches,
Yeah.
and so that really popped out at me. They also have a falafel, but getting to the meat of it, as they say, your standard backyard smash with cheddar, lettuce, tomato, fresh onion, and Dijonnaise, the steakhouse smash with the caramelized onions, provolone, herb marinated portobellos, and horseradish aioli. Look at that burger. I mean, that I'm sorry, but that's not a slider, folks. That is a burger. And yes, they're $10 a piece, but they come with fries. So for $10, you're getting a side of hand cut fries, or you can get the honey jalapeno slaw. You can add for $3 for $2.99. You can sub onion rings, sweet potato fries, or a salad. And honestly, like their fries are really good too in their own way. I think I went with that pouton when I was there. I don't know if it was the pastrami pouton that they have right now, but whatever it was, it might have been. Whatever it was
Oh,
a delicious.
the pastrami poutine?
Yeah, the
Poutine?
beer cheese.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
it's
Yeah,
my goodness.
their beer cheese is phenomenal. And like again, it's like okay, so like you go to a place and me, I don't have a ton of clients for my business, but like so the ones that I have are like the ones I really want to work with, and like and so like when I went into the slider bar and the beer cheese, like the steakhouse burger, the cowboy, um which I'll show here. It's just, I mean, it's like you got a nice onion ring on there, some beautiful bacon, um, and again, like you said, the fries are fantastic, and they they have a lot of different options. It's the Palladino family. They're local. Pete is the master chef there, and he has he's worked with some of the finest chefs around the world, and he decided that like when he wanted to open his thing, he wanted to focus on sliders, but he didn't want to just make it your typical slider. He wanted to bring in as many different tastes, as many different profiles as he can, and uh, I haven't met anybody down here that reminds me more of the lead character from The Bear more than Pete, because he just is constantly, uh, and he'll say almost to a fault, and because he just is always, there's always a new slider. It's like the minute he creates something new, he's on to the next. Um, I don't know, ADHD or whatever it is, or just so many like thoughts in his head in terms of what he wants to show people. And it's so you got to check the specials every week. The cowboy, the ones we're showing are your basic menu ones, but he just did a burrito taco burger
Saw that.
that was, I mean, uh, it was really delicious, and you know, he'll take inspiration from a burrito loco, and try to see if he can't outdo him or be on par with him, or he works with Ted next door on the pastrami, which you're seeing here. Um, Ted will smoke it, and then they'll cure it for I believe 10 days, and oh, it's. I, are you a big pastrami guy?
I do. I'm not like the biggest pastrami fan in the world, but I certainly prefer it to corned beef. Now that we're coming on off the heels of St. Patrick's Day, I
Yeah,
mean, I
see, I'm
think
not.
that it's just often like it's made well, and Bluffton Barbecue is doing it right. So for a
Yeah,
thing like that, like it's not like I wouldn't go in there and my eyes aren't going to go straight to the pastrami burger, but now that we're talking about it and I'm looking at a photograph of it, like I would definitely crush that. There's no question about it. The
yeah,
amount of time and effort that he puts into all of these things is just people don't realize behind the scenes the effort to put into the quality of the ingredients and constantly screwing around with all of these different ingredients to create these concoctions, these burger, you know, combinations is incredible. I didn't even mention the Korean fried chicken. I had that one too with the gochujang, kimchi, and dill pickle.
oh gosh.
It's like a hit parade going down this list. So to answer your question, not one of my favorite things, but I
Me
can
neither.
guarantee you, if I took a bite of that burger, I would be sold immediately.
Me neither. But I had to try it. I was like, oh wow, maybe I got to rethink pastrami like between what
Anything
Ted
that
did and
takes
what he did.
16 hours to make, Tim,
Yeah,
cured for 10 days, then smoked for 16 hours, come on.
and it's the you mentioned it earlier. I think when they first opened, like first of all, this is like a new concept around here, sliders, in terms of just focusing in on sliders. I mean, they have an amazing, they have amazing desserts. This woman, Susan Goldman, this baker, she's just won some national award for baking, and she does different specials all the time, pies, um, like a rhubarb tart. Those were like he just did like a cinnamon sugar bite thing. It was just he. They're always adding new twists. They've got their staples of the menu. He's already changed up the menu a couple times now, just because he's been listening to what people want. And when you say, like, again, this concept of a slider, we're so used to, like, okay, well, that's just a appetizer. Well, no, no. When you do a slider this way, with the quality of the products that they're doing, it's definitely a main course. And the $10, like you said, you get the slider, um, you get a very healthy portion of hand cut fries that are really special. Um, and yeah, I guess I won't say I was in the minority, but like I've been to slider places around the country, so like I'm kind of used to the concept. But I never felt like I was getting cheated when it was a $10 like menu. It was like I always felt full and just absolute like taste explosion in my mouth. And then they just added a whole, again, listening to what the customers want. They just added a whole line of dogs and sausages. We're talking burgers, obviously, but burgers and dogs go well together. And they added a bratwurst, a boozy bratwurst, again with that beer cheese you were talking about. They had like a sliced bratwurst on the menu when they first started, and I I can't find the right superlative. I just absolutely loved it. I love bratwurst, and this was just like so top notch. And it didn't make the cut. And I was like, "Oh no, not enough people are ordering this. How is this possible?" All right, well, he brought it back with the dog. They got a Chicago dog. Um, Check out the menu. There's a Chicago dog. I believe there's like a Jersey dog. Um, those are the four. I can't remember the names. I'm kind of blanking on the dog names. But again, four new dogs on the menu. The beers that we're talking bars here. They do a lot of work with a lot of the local crafts spots, whether it's Edmund's Oast or Tradesman, or they've got some amazing cocktails that really pair well with the burgers and the sliders. And then just to come to find out, Nick, he's actually they're gonna do boozy milkshakes coming up in the spring. Yeah, that was something that Joe's ice cream did amazingly well, and R.I.P. to Joe's at the moment. But Joe's was phenomenal with the boozy milkshakes, and they have some craft beers on tap. It's mostly in can right now, but he's converting. He's doing a whole tap room setup now in the spring, and he's working with a craft beer company that they'll have their own line of beers, a la Lot 9 and such. They won't be brewed in house. They'll be brewed locally, but yeah, lot more coming. So, like you said, slide on in.
You were in my head again, as you frequently are. I love the fact that he is always out there. He's visible and he wants feedback. And the last time that I was there, that's exactly what we were talking about. He was talking to me about some of the beers that he was bringing in. And I think one of the ones that I had that night was like, you might even be showing it here. Is that the jalapeno one? Like
The
he
pepper
was
me
talking.
green, yeah.
Yeah, he was talking to me about these beers and the way that they pair with the burgers. And like you said, they're doing cocktails now that will pair with these things. So not only is he innovating and they're being really creative and collaborating, like you said, with Pete, with the Ted, with the Bluffton barbecue, with the brisket. He's actively conversing with customers and you know taking that feedback to heart. Like he really cares about what people want. I also noticed that as we talked about our dogs before, they have a puppy patty, which is really cool.
Yep.
uh 85% chicken, carrots, and oats if you got your dog with you and you're sitting outside.
And
um
it's a great spot. It's right next to Local Pie. Right in between Local Pie and Bluffton Barbecue. They got, those who were huge fans of agave. They still got the outside, the outside bar. And
right.
patio, and um, yeah, I sometimes when you work with restaurants, especially new restaurants, it's you want to chime in sometimes and say, you should do this, or you should do that. I'm an older fart, so I've kind of been around the block a few times. I I don't find myself doing that at all with these guys. They've hit every note. He's listening. They have tried. And if you get a chance, I did an interview with him on Low Country Chronicle on my Low Country podcast. And he talks a lot about this in terms of just this mix of trying to find that price point that pleases the customer while not sacrificing on the freshness, on the quality, on the ingredients. And that's a really tricky game nowadays, my friend. that's that's a tightrope that that would be the first thing that scares me about if I was good enough to open up a restaurant these days. That'd be the first thing that scared me, is just that walking that price point quality tightrope.
You're not going to please everybody, but I'm sorry, for $9.99 to have a burger that might not be the biggest burger you've ever seen, but to get a burger with fries, some people, one will be enough. Some people might want to go for two, I'm sorry, but $20 for, actually, and it's not even 20 because I think it's not, if you get a second burger, obviously you're getting the fries that came with the original burger. So it's going to be a little bit less than 20, but I'm sorry, but to go out and have a couple of sliders and fries for $20, I don't know where you're going to beat that. I think it's a good time to remind everybody what restaurant owners are dealing right now with food costs. We had a whole conversation yesterday about things that people don't know. Scott told us that the challenges that they have with lobster, that when there's Chinese New Year or whatever, they're they're reserving, what did he say, 700
1,000.
750,000. It was
Yeah.
mind-boggling. So
It's
people
like,
say, oh
you
well,
want your Maine lobster. Well, Maine, and the whole Northeast is pretty much catering to China this time of year in terms of Chinese New Year. But on top of that, the cost of lobster's gone up to begin with. So, yeah.
and it's no different with beef and all of the other things. I mean, we know the situation that we're having at the grocery store with eggs. So I mean, I'm sorry, but you're going to have to be realistic. And again, it might not be the biggest burger that you've ever seen, but for someone like me that likes to try a couple different things, I don't mind spending $20, $30 if I'm going to get to try three different burgers and some fries. I might get a side of that queso to dip those fries in, that type of thing. You and I are both on the same page as far as the amount of the appreciation for the amount of time and effort that's put into not just opening a restaurant, but constantly evolving, adding the hot dogs and adding all of these different things, and evolving the bar menu and the beer and the cocktails and everything like that. Predominantly outside seating at this place, but you can get it takeout. They're on DoorDash and all the different platforms. I know you were helping out with some of that stuff. I think Pete's a great guy. I wish him nothing but success, and I am going to make it a point to get over there in the next week or two, because just looking at these things, I need to try a couple that I hadn't gotten around to yet, and I'm excited because there's some really good stuff coming out of here.
You get in a conversation with him. I mean, don't, you know, uh, 5 minutes turned into an hour and a half with Chef Scott. Yes, this week, and Pete's the same way. Pete has this passion that is just uh, comes through in every sentence when you're talking to him. Always a smile immediately. He might be grinded down by the day, but you catch him and you ask him about you know what's on tap, or what he's working on next, and the smile immediately comes to his face. And yeah, I very engaging guy, a perfectionist. Again, that's tricky when you're trying to get volume out there too. But I've really been impressed with that tightrope that they're walking. And I'm was really very very happy to see them on your list for sure. So there's number two on the list. Let's go back to the big board. We have Craft Kitchen and Slider Bar thus far. Where do we go next, sir?
Let's head uptown to, a lot of times people say, where should I go watch a game? Where should
Oh,
I go get a burger? You know, a lot of times you'll see in those posts and you'll see dozens of responses that say our bar, not our, OUR. But I mean, is it really? It's kind of a double entendre, because R, the letter R, bar, really is our bar for Bluffton, right? Specifically, or if you're a Buffalo Bills fan, which I don't know how we've gotten so many Buffalo's Bills fans in this area, but these backer bars that you see all over the country, that's really the only backer bar that I know of in Bluffton or Hilton Head, right? At least from my perspective, from what I've seen.
well, I mean, okay, so Bills specifically, Bills Mafia, they converge like no other fan base I've seen. And I mean, a Sunday, NFL Sunday at our bar, or oh my gosh, even a Monday or Thursday night game. Forget about it. It's even more because it's the game. Um, it's a sight to see. They're a lot of fun. I mean, you have like Street Meat does. Street Meat's a Browns bar.
Oh, that's right.
Um,
Yes, I
yeah,
forgot about that.
Tailgaters has kind of turned into a Patriots spot.
Really?
Yeah, there's Eagle spots. There's a couple of Cowboy spots. They don't advertise it as much. Like our bar wears it on their sleeve, and in every decoration in the place. A lot of these places will just welcome these specific uh, clubs that have kind of made it their own. But you go into like a Street Meat, it's a Browns bar, and you go into our bar, where Bill's Mafia goes on a Sunday, and they eat well. They eat well, and specifically the burgers, right?
Specifically the burgers. What Tanya has created with our bar, there's really nothing else like it in terms of the variety of things that they have. We'll get to the burgers in a second, but I mean, creative appetizers. Angry Benny egg rolls with teriyaki pork. They got the pickle chips. They got the fried mushrooms, wings,
Are those the
soups,
fried
salad.
shrooms?
I
Yeah,
think,
right. Those,
yeah,
yeah,
I think they
looks like
are.
a
Yeah,
mushroom. Yeah.
yes. Yeah, it is. Our bar, they have, before you even get into the burgers, 6, 9. They have 12 different sandwiches.
Yeah.
Anything from an Italian hoagie to the Cuban sandwich, that famous beef on weck, which is the roast beef piled on the Kimmelweck roll with horseradish and the au jus. It's kind of like I guess the buffalo version of a French dip. And they got some entrees and pizzas and everything like that too. But really, where it jumps off the page is when you get to the burger section. This is where you're talking, a half-pound burger, basically 8 different ways, and it
Look at
ranges.
that.
Yeah, I
I
mean
mean,
that's a bar burger, right?
yeah.
Give me a burger with fries. Give me my beer. Um, I'm just looking at the different toppings on a couple of these different things. You know, the bomb with the bacon and a homemade jalapeno popper dip. Like, what are we talking about here? A trailer park burger with peanut butter sauce, bacon, and potato chips, sweet and salty. I mean, we're getting into the
Have
Caligula.
you
Like,
had that? Have you had the trailer park? Because you
I
mentioned
have
peanut
not.
butter. So,
I have not. You know
dude,
what? I've never gotten peanut butter on a burger before, but if and when I do, it will be happening at our bar. I can
try
tell you that.
it. Try it. Oh my goodness. I would like. It's not like I'm not a peanut butter fan. It's just like was it Scott that mentioned? Was it butter and peanut butter sandwich? Was it what did he mention?
Yes, yes, butter and peanut butter and dipping it in coffee. I think you said, right?
Yeah, I was like,
Yep.
what? From a chef? A chef's telling me this?
Yeah,
Like, okay, all right, well,
but it makes
okay.
sense.
I was like calling such BS on this trailer park burger, and again, not being a snob or anything. It's just, and I really shouldn't be, okay, because like I like peanut butter on cheese. Like that was something like my aunt like was had and like this peanut butter and cheese sandwich. I like peanut butter and bananas. Like I'm like
Me too.
stupid, you know,
Yeah.
on peanut butter, but I I guess I just drew lines. I just never thought to put I guess the guy that thought of peanut butter and chocolate together. He's a, you know, billionaire estate now, but um this the trailer park burger is really good. Sorry to commandeer. Yeah, but
Not at
definitely
all.
try it. Definitely
Not
try
at
it.
all. You sold me. It didn't take much. You sold me in the first couple of seconds.
Yeah.
We talked about Lulu's where you can't really narrow it down about like what you're going to get. I'm just looking like I went Cuban last time and I was blown away because it's a little bit of a spin where they do breaded pork loin as opposed to,
That's the Cubana, right?
slice.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was incredible. They even throw a fried egg and avocado on it. I mean, I've never had a Cuban like that. Again, not your traditional. It was delicious. This was when I met
Yeah.
my brother and sister there shortly after they moved into town because they were handling some stuff over at the DMV. Pro tip, if you got to wait at the DMV, go get yourself some lunch at our bar, River Road Cafe, right around the corner.
Well
Um,
said. Well said.
I can't say that if I
I mean,
look at this list of,
used to be Groobies too there for sure. Like
okay,
that was the nice triumvirate over there. Groobies hopefully coming back. Hopefully coming
hopefully,
back. But
hopefully, fingers crossed.
um
But yeah, I look at this list of burgers, and the standard burger $12.99. It tops out with the Dirty Bird at six. Sorry, the Cajun Breakfast Burger at $17.99, probably because of the egg. But you're looking at this list, excuse me, and there's not a burger on here that I wouldn't want to try. A Cajun seasoned breakfast burger where they actually throw sausage on there in addition to bacon. The Eat at Joe's burger where they brush it with teriyaki glaze, Swiss cheese, horseradish sauce, and a pita. Piggyback burger with barbecue pork on it. You said the trailer park where the Dirty Bird, where they actually put a piece of atomic hot grilled chicken with blue cheese crumbles. I mean, this is a hit parade, and I can't think of again. Even you can create your own with the R, where you're gonna pick whatever cheese and whatever toppers that you want, but all of these burgers, these one, two, three, four, five, six, these seven specialty burgers, I want to eat every single one of these. I would probably go, with a side. I don't know, maybe throw in some Cajun fries, but you can also go with tater tots, Cajun tots. They have their own R chips. They got onion rings. I mean, they even have
the
a,
onion
a,
rings
a
are fantastic. Yeah,
yes,
oh yeah.
they are. They're very good. And they even have this was for this past football season. They had like one, two, three, four, five, six different things that were specific for, it says 2024 roster menu,
Yeah.
football centric, probably Saturday or Sunday only items that you can get. It just, this menu, like, it's not too big because it's broken up into clearly defined categories. But again, the burger is the leader,
Yeah.
right? It's the chief, section of this where people are going for this. And like I said, Tanya has created an environment that is a football fan's dream. Even if you're not a Bills fan, she's going to have every game on there on Sundays. They have Rendezvous next door, which is a space that you can rent out. I sponsored a great event there with a golf simulator
Golf
for the Greater
simulators,
Brooklyn
yep.
Chamber a couple of years ago. Yep. So yeah, I mean, this
This is such
is
a sneaky place, Nick, because like
yes,
the first time I ever and again, I won't say I'm a snob, but like that was always one hot mamas to me. So it was like when and again, I'm been here a little while. So when one hot mamas left, it was like, all right, what's coming in here? Like what's gonna be any good? Um our bar. The first time I went, I'm thinking, okay, it's a bar. Uh, m- might even be a dive bar. It per se, if but no, no. Uh, my first thought was, okay, this is gonna be for alcohol and game watching, and that's enough for me. And but then you try everything on the menu, and it's like it's like we haven't even talked like we're talking burgers today, but like the entrees, the smoked pork, and I think I mentioned this when we were talking pulled pork, but like their pulled pork is so sneaky delicious. Their pulled pork sandwich, the smoked pork mac and cheese entree. Um, you are you gonna get a spaghetti and meatballs at a R bar? Try it. Like my son raves about it. It's like,
really
yeah, it's like every I just everything they do, they nail. And you had a picture that I was gonna pull up here. that we've talked about everybody's affinity for this, but I mean, come on, French onion crock,
I got
like,
that. Yeah, that day. I
yeah,
think that's my sister's salad in the background, but I got that French onion soup that day. The crock, like, look at that thing. It's spectacular. Look, and we got a lot of good options for French onion soup
oh
around here,
yeah,
but that was a home run. Tim, you brought my attention to this entree section where it's basically 3 out of the 6 options are Macs. Christmas mac, homemade mac and cheese topped with chicken, bacon, and spicy Cheetos crumbles.
mm-hmm,
I've never heard of that before in my life, but I would 100% eat it. This menu's dangerous in the best possible way. My
yep.
sister loved her salad. I think she went with a Cobb salad.
Yeah,
I
Debbie
don't
had
remember what.
the Cobb salad as well.
Yeah,
She's had the grilled Caesar as well there. Yeah, so much good stuff.
my brother's big into wings too, and I'm not going to read through them all, but the amount of flavors that they have, and you can get them crispy, extra crispy, or Tanya's way, which is, it says, ridiculously crispy. I love how lighthearted this is. I love how fun the descriptions are. I love the vibe when you're in there, even though I'm not a Bills fan. Forever remember Scott Norwood was a very joyous time in my life
Yes,
as a young Giants fan. But yeah, I mean, listen, the one thing that you can say about the Bills Mafia is that they're extremely passionate. I have a cousin, as they say with the Italian. We have people that aren't necessarily family
many
by blood,
cousins.
but they're
Yes,
they're family regardless. My cousin Joe is a long suffering Bills fan, and if we can ever get him down here for a visit, hopefully it'll be during football season so I can take him to our bar, because I've been to a lot of backer bars for a lot of different teams, and the vibe here is really fun. And like you said, when you go to a place like that, you're not really, you know, you're not getting your hopes up because you really don't care when you're going to watch a game. I just want a burger and some fries, some wings, whatever. But when the food is as good as it is here, you're like, oh, well, it doesn't have to be a football game on for me to go there.
great trivia night too on Wednesdays. Like,
Oh, cool.
I uh I host a lot of trivia, so I like, a trivia snob in terms of, and they've got a great host on Wednesdays. Like, I won't lie, just, I'll be 100% honest. I've been trying to like host trivia there forever, but they got a host there that's just phenomenal. So Wednesday night trivia
Cool.
there is fantastic. I think they're doing some music bingo there as well now too. But they have live music. It's a great spot. So there's number 3 on your list. Our
Yes.
bar. Our bar. So
Let
we go back to the list.
Yeah, let's head back downtown. I can't take credit for this one because I probably saw it, noticed it kind of driving by a couple of times. Um, there off of I can't remember the name of the cross street, but there was maybe within that first year that we were here. I think I told you my parents followed suit um, about a month after we did, and we have very good friends of ours that live down in Sea Pines. And every so often, my dad gets together with his friend Lyle for lunch, and he'll drop me a text and say, "Come and join Lyle and I for lunch." Right off of Buckingham Plantation Drive. I wanted to make sure that I got that address right. I was introduced to Kelly's Tavern. Now, yes, we're a
You
day
said
late.
downtown. You could confuse me for a second there. It's kind of
Well, you're right. Not necessarily downtown. I guess back closer towards the bridge.
towards the bridge.
Yeah,
Yes.
this is not. This is not. Even though some of that region's right over the bridge, this is officially Bluffton, so it's not that Hilton Head part there where it's
Moss
like you're not
Creek
quite to
area.
the bridge
Yeah.
and it's good. Yeah, Moss
Yeah.
Creek area, Kelly's Tavern. Like I said, I know we're a day late for the St. Patrick's Day of it all, but I was instantly sold by this place. I mean, this is your prototypical neighborhood Irish bar, not just because of the vibe in there, but also because of the quality and quantity as well of the food that you get at Kelly's Tavern. It reminds me back in the day when I worked for the New Jersey Nets, which are now the Brooklyn Nets. We had a couple of Irish pubs in the area, specifically right down the road from the arena, that was called the Grasshopper. And there was a couple different Grasshoppers throughout northern New Jersey, but the Grasshopper was very well known for its pub food, whether it was, chicken wings. I preferred the boneless tenders, burgers, fries. But then, of course, you get into the specialties. Before I get into burgers, I mean, when you go to Kelly's, what they're most well known for is the Reuben and the hot roast beef sandwich, which is
The
just,
open face.
yes, the open face. It's one of the specialties.
Yep.
So they have the big Reuben, which is, I mean, it's the size of the plate. I think you're looking at the roast beef there, but it's the same
Yeah.
thing,
Yep.
regardless of which one that you're getting. They have a mini one. The mini is bigger than a normal size Reuben, right? So you go mini Reuben, which is normal size. The big is probably going to be 2 meals. The Dublin is my favorite: roast beef, sauteed onions, mushrooms smothered with gravy and melted cheese, all served on open face rye bread. And then they got the Blarney, which is with horseradish sauce, no gravy, and then the Belfast, which they use as a barbecue pork, coleslaw, and melted Swiss. These are their specialties. The big Reuben is $26 because it's an unbelievable amount of food. The other ones are $14.99. There it is. There's the Reuben. But when you get specifically into burgers, um, you're ranging from a hamburger for $13.50. Again, these are half pounders, USDA choice beef. You're going from $13.50 with the classic, $14.99 for a cheeseburger. Pick your choice of cheese. You want to go bacon, you want to go mushroom Swiss, you want to go patty melt with Swiss onions on rye bread. They have a stuffed burger that has blue cheese dressing, onions, and mushrooms, a chili cheeseburger, an Irish burger that has thinly sliced baby red potatoes and cheese, a jalapeno, a Jersey burger that's got baked ham as opposed to the Taylor ham, and then Kenny's Killer Burger, which is a double stack with bacon, onions, tomato, and American cheese. That's $28, so that's probably on par with the size of that regular Reuben that we just talked about. So you are going to get an absolute ton of food. There's TVs in there. There's a pool table in the back. I think there's a couple dartboards. It is exactly what you would expect from a neighborhood, town, Irish pub. The vibe, the clientele, the whole 9 yards. It
Bar in the
it checks
center.
every box.
Center. Center bar wrapping around. This is. By the way, um, this is where you and I first met.
That's right. We had
Yeah.
our first lunch there. I,
Yep.
I I totally forgot. I didn't forget about that, but this is a perfect. That's the perfect recall. You talk about my recall. You're right. That was the first time. I think it was right before. It was your last lunch before you were going to go have your surgery.
Yep. Yep.
Right. Your last hurrah.
Absolutely. And I actually, that's why I put the picture up here. I had the chili that day, and I've said it I think before, but I'm a chili snob, and the chili there was just amazing. The chili was great there. I've actually had the meatloaf there as well. This right here,
Ooh,
um,
look at their gravy is delicious. That's
it
why I
is
can't stop getting. I can't stop
gravy on
getting their hot
rice.
open face roast beef.
Gravy
What?
on rice. Like it's like like I want.
Yeah.
I remember wanting like I'm like, where's my mashed potatoes? And you can get mashed potatoes, but like the gravy on rice is amazing. It's I don't know. This is a place that is easily overlooked, okay? Because it's a neighborhood spot. It's like am I gonna fit in there? Well, yeah. If you like good food, you're gonna fit in there real quick. It is. I'm not gonna say it's not a highbrow uh fine cuisine establishment. It's a neighborhood eatery. It is family to the core. They've had some tragedies. Um they recently did a grand reopening. Uh listen, I'm not gonna say every restaurant can use your business, okay? Uh this family, this crew has endured a lot of pain, and this establishment has kept them together, has brought them back to life. And if I'm ever going to say, please, if you haven't tried a place yet, a place that deserves to be tried, it's Kelly's for sure.
100%. I know I'm being redundant here, but this is it's everything that you would expect. In a I don't want to use the term dive. I don't like that term,
Nope.
but it's no frills. It is. It probably looks very similar inside. It's been around for 30 years, right? It probably
Yep.
looks no different inside than it looked in 2015, and probably not that much different than it looked in 2005,
Nope.
and so on and so forth. But that's what you want when you go to these places. I think about, we're coming up on the tournament, like we said before. I think about a time when I was in Hoboken, New Jersey, because again, a lot of my friends lived in that area because they worked in Manhattan or they worked in other areas, Teterboro and things like that, by the river, right? So it would take me a half hour, 45 minutes to go drive and meet them. So NCAA tournament's like, okay, we're going to whatever to watch. I'm not going to name the place that I was not particularly a fan of. It was one of the places that everybody liked going to on a major street corner in Hoboken. We were waiting online to get into the bar, and we got to the door, and there was three issues. It was, one is, are you guys 25 or something like that? Which I was like, wait, what? I thought you had to be 21 to go into a bar.
Yeah, I'm not renting a car here.
Yeah. Number two was, you're going to have to take your hat off. I'm like, okay, so I'm going to watch the NCAAs and I can't wear a hat. As you know, I like to go with a hat. I'm an accessory person and my hair is a little bit longer. I like to keep it back and out of my face and everything like that. If I'm going to a formal event, I will obviously kill the hat. But you tell me I got to take my hat off. And then he started giving my friend a hard time, who was a resident of Hoboken at the time that spent a lot of time at all these different bars because he was wearing flip-flops or something like that, or sandals. So we pivoted immediately and we went two doors down to, ironically, a place called Kelly's Pub. And we walked in the door and I had an ear-to-ear smile on my face. I had skin in the game because Boston College was playing. The turnout wasn't what we wanted. I think we were playing Texas or something like that day. But I say that story to say that sometimes you just want to go to an Irish bar. Have you ever been to Atlantic City, Tim? I just saw the other day somebody posted, it might have been on Facebook or something else. They were talking about the Irish pub. That's literally the name of it, Atlantic
Yep.
City, Irish pub.
Yep.
They are open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Not sure if it's 365 days a year, but I believe it is, which is mind-boggling to me for a place to be open all day and all night. And people will tell you that when they go down to Atlantic City, and don't get me wrong, I got a lot of negative things that I could say about Atlantic City,
Same.
but one of them is not Irish pub. And this is what you would, it's not as nearly as big and it's not, whatever, but it is exactly what you would expect from a neighborhood Irish pub, Irish tavern, from soup to nuts, whether it's the appearance of it, whether it's, I want to just get a Guinness, whether I want a no frills cocktail, or whether I want to sit down and have some lunch. When we sat down that day, I probably went with my go-to, which is the fried mushrooms with ranch on the side. So a lot of times I'll go for the soup. I'm not a chili guy, but I'll go for the soup. And almost every time I'll get that roast beef. I think I might have had one time I might have had a burger or a cheesesteak or something different like that, but I'm not sure. I might be, batting a 1,000 on that roast beef sandwich because that's how good it is. It's a fork and a knife. Like I said, it's open face. But I might have to switch it up. Next time I go, I might have to try one of these burgers because they are really good looking. And I love the fact that you can pick whatever side you want. You can substitute onion rings or potato chip fries instead of your standard fries. And every time I go there, it's usually, like I said, with my dad and his friend Lyle, very good family friends of ours. And that's our kind of like, I know that's theirs because these guys are well into their 70s. That's their cheat meal. That's
Nice.
we're going out for lunch and all bets are off. And I mean, all you got to know is on that same page where the burgers are, the category above that is literally monster sandwiches. And it's appropriate because,
Yep.
again, It's not quality over quantity. It's quality in addition to quantity. And the
Nice.
service is also very good. It might not be, the highest on the chart of congeniality, but, and I don't say that in a negative way,
Nope.
because I appreciate that. I like when
Same.
places are, not necessarily
They
soup Nazi,
are
but
what they are.
they are what they are, and they're also are what they are because they do not stop. I mean, those servers, they don't take they don't stand still for more than like the couple of seconds that it takes them to maybe get a drink poured or pick up somebody's order. This
Yep.
place is 100% the Irish bar that everybody wants to go to have a burger and a beer and have some fun conversation and watch a game or whatever they want to do.
Nice. Kelly's number 4 on the list. One more on the main list. Let's go back to it.
We're going to go over the bridge to a place that is another sort of a hidden gem. I stumbled upon this place when Jocelyn and I were here on vacation with my family, and we did one of those excursions to do kayaking. So the launch part was over by Fish Camp on Broad Creek, where there's that big boathouse there. Most people don't realize if you walk a little bit further down to the right of Fish Camp, you're going to stumble upon one of the best little pub and grills that you'll find anywhere in the Low Country, and that is Up the Creek Pub and Grill.
All right, so before we get too far into this, I saw the post where you sent the photos to me, and I can't do I can't do kayaks. My balance is awful. I'm awful in a canoe. Maybe that's going to be different minus 110 pounds. Maybe my coordination, I'm probably thinking no, but I'll certainly try. Uh, Paddling, Nick. I was not pegging and not I don't know why. I just wasn't pegging. You are just an enigma wrapped in a mystery. Like the minute I got you pegged for one thing, you're like the minute I got you pegged for steak and potatoes, you're off on sushi and kimchi. It's I'm thinking you're landlocked, now you're on now you're paddling. It's like wow, talk to me about paddling.
I didn't know where you were going with that. And it's funny that you're talking about paddling because all the categories of all the things on this menu are actual paddles. It's white text on blue and red
Yep.
paddles on the
Yep.
menu. But I mean, it's again, I mean, they know that that's where they're at in terms of that that's the launch point for. I can't remember the name of the company that does it, but I don't know whether it's outside or one of the other ones. But regardless, um, the kayaking is not something that I, you know, was like, I need to go kayaking. My wife's parents, her father's no longer with us, but her parents used to live in New Hampshire. She grew up in Warwick, and then when she got older, around college time, her parents moved up to um, not oh my god, um, Croydon, New Hampshire, not far
Oh,
from
okay. Sure.
Yeah, not far from Dartmouth. I know that you're very familiar with that area up
Yep.
there.
Yep.
So they were big on going to the various lakes and kayaking. So I probably did not get into a kayak until after I had met her. I was used to see people doing it out in the ocean down the Jersey Shore, and I'm not sure if I saw them doing it down here now, but I had seen people in kayaks before. It's one of those things where my wife said, do you want to get up this morning and go do a kayak excursion? And there's not a lot that I'll say no to. I actually really like to be out on the water. My
Same.
friend reached out to me today who bought a boat last year or the year before, I forget. He wants to go out and do a little bit of a fishing trip with a friend of his. He called me and he wanted to check in on me and said, are you into fishing? And my answer to that is no. It's never something that has interested me, but I do absolutely love to be out on a boat, and I absolutely love to be out on the water. Um, there have been a couple of nerve wracking times where a dolphin is swimming by, and I know dolphins are friendly, but when you have a beast, as we said, that's that large, you have an animal, a mammal, sorry, that's that large swimming next to you, you might get a little freaked out by it.
Yeah.
You don't know when you're on big bodies of water. I had a thing when I was a kid where I flipped off of a tube that was being dragged by one of the boats. We were doing tubing, and I was in this big body of water as the boat took this big wide turn to come back and pick me up. And when I went to go jump back in the boat, I kicked, and whatever I kicked, I didn't move it. It moved me. It almost helped me, get myself back up into the boat. And I was like, what is that? Now, that might have just been a big, heavy piece of driftwood. But bottom line is, I don't want to know about it. And I'm probably not going to go tubing anytime soon again. Being in a big body of water by myself, especially in a situation like that, is not where I want to be. But kayaking has been something that, we don't own kayaks, and it's been a while since we've done it, but I've had a lot of fun doing it. One time over by Hudson's from one of the other launches, I got stuck on an oyster bed, and I went to go push myself off with my hand instead of the paddle. And it could have been a lot worse. I just kind of sliced my fingertip open, and probably was doing something that wasn't too smart, which is, letting it kind of sit in the water. Cause as a lot of people know, sharks can sense blood from a very, very long distance away. So probably wasn't the smartest thing to do, but kayaking, not something that was on my radar. But as we know from people who get married and get into relationships, sometimes your significant other is going to suggest something that might not be at the top of your list in terms of things that you want to do. But just like we talked about, we did the hike at Hunting Island because I knew I was going to get some betos coming back. If I knew that we were doing a kayaking trip and we were launching off on Broad Creek, I knew that I was getting some lunch at Up the Creek before we went back to, the condo or the timeshare or rental, whatever you want to call it, to get back together with my family, who was probably at the beach or at the pool or
Okay, so
doing
this
whatever
was
they
not the
were doing.
first visit to Up the Creek.
No,
Okay,
no.
so you knew.
So this,
Okay.
yeah. So this
All right.
became Up the Creek became like, okay, we're going to go kayaking, and then we're going to go to Up the Creek. Very similar
Nice.
to that. My friend and his wife, who live over in the lakes at New Riverside with their two young kids now, when they first moved to Hilton Head, they were living at the Hilton Head Resort. And we're going to get to a place that they
Yes. Yes.
frequented in just a moment. But they became regulars because my friend Eric, we met when we were both working at a bar. He was working Saturday nights. I was working Sunday afternoons, specifically for the football games. But all throughout the season, I worked there for about a year and a half. He's big into, let's go grab a beer. Even if we're not going to go eat, although he does like that stuff too, let's go grab a beer. Let's go grab some food. Again, he's got a daughter. You want to make sure you're going to feed the kid, and then also, have something to eat, have some drinks. This became one of their go-tos because, again, not a far drive going from Hilton Head Resort over to Up the Creek. This is a place that, very limited inside. Obviously, you have the bar. There's a couple of tables, I think, inside. Really, where the beauty of it is to sit out on the deck, specifically out on the back deck where you're overlooking, just like you do at Fish Camp on Broad Creek, where you're overlooking the creek there. And, a pretty expansive menu, quite a few appetizers and sandwiches, seafood baskets, and all that stuff. But again, I think really, and it's the very center of the menu there is their burgers. And there are in addition to the Chipotle black bean burger, there are four main burgers. You can get them with potato salad, coleslaw, fries, hush puppies, or fried okra, or you can substitute onion rings or baked beans, a side Caesar or a house out if you want to spend an extra $3. Exactly what you see. A basket with a burger. This is with the fried okra, which of course is, a local delicacy, I guess if you would call it. This place is as big of a deal for the atmosphere and the view as it is for the food. That Broad Creek Marina is one of my favorite spots. It's why I like to go to fish camp and sit outside, and whether I'm going around with a friend or two of mine in their boat to stop and grab something to eat and grab a drink. I love sitting out in the back of fish camp. Same thing with Up the Creek. I love to go there, sit outside on the dock, on the deck, and enjoy a couple of, chilled beverages, whether alcoholic or not, and sit there and enjoy a burger. They also have a really good fish sandwich as well, which you can get with your choice of fish or a crab cake on a toasted roll with lettuce, tomato, and onion.
Yeah, was
And you
this
can
a
get that
crab
prepared any
cake?
way that you want. Um,
Or is that a
I think that is a fish sandwich.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Nice.
I'm not a huge crab cake person. My wife's into crab cakes. I'm more of a fish sandwich person, or fish tacos is something that I like to go with sometimes too. But there you see the pretzel, which is that looks
Looks
pretty delicious.
fantastic. That's why I included it. I'm like, dang.
Stuffed. Tim, that pretzel's stuffed with jalapeno cheese.
No way.
Yep.
Oh my. I mean, I saw it. I was like, "Oh, yeah. That is a legit pretzel." But now you're saying it's stuffed? Come on now. Wow.
Yes. And again,
Wow.
these are half-pound USDA beef burgers, and 14 for the regular, Broad Creek burger, $16 for barbecue, the black and blue, or the Southwestern bacon. I really like that price point. And again, this is what you would expect from a not a dock bar like Hudson's, but pretty darn close to it, right? As it's right at the end of the dock, right out the back door, so to speak, of that Broad Creek Marina boathouse.
Nice.
Yes.
All right. So, up the creek, add it to the list.
Yes, sir.
That's the main list per se, but we've got a couple of honorable mentions we want to put on the list here.
Yes.
One of them is the place that we just mentioned. And I love that when you go to the Facebook page, it says, part of the fun is finding us.
Yes. Yes. We mentioned it without mentioning it. So when my friends were living at Hilton Head Resort for a year or so while they were waiting for their home to be built, they were also regulars at a place where, and again, very infrequently am I going to mention a place that I have not had the opportunity to enjoy yet, but I make sure that I know that this is going to be pretty foolproof in terms of that it's going to be a unanimous reaction to it. And I also double checked it with you, who has eaten there. There was a really cool video from the Hilton Head Living folks this past week that told you exactly how to find this. So if you go
I've actually
to,
got it.
yes, oh, perfect.
Yep.
So if you go to Hilton Head Resort, Tim will show you how you're going to
What's the
find
place?
Coco's on the beach.
There you go.
Yes, sir.
All right. So, yeah, let me pull that up.
Take your time. There you
Yeah,
see.
shout out to Hilton Head Living and Jessica Gibbons.
Yeah.
Big fan of what they're doing, and here you go. Here's the video. Let me see.
Jessica, and I want to say OT is what he goes by.
Yes.
Yeah. So she's giving you a little tour here where you go in the gate. You tell them that you're going to go to Coco's. Then here you have the entrance to this long footbridge. So you're going to walk across
boardwalk.
that.
You can
Looks
take
like
a
you can
golf
get help if you
cart.
want to take a golf cart if you want. And look how fun this place looks. Like, this is exactly what you would expect from a beach bar if you went to somewhere in the Caribbean, if you went to Jamaica, or one of these Bahamas, one of these type of things. Bright colors, obviously I'm sure they got some really good cocktails and things like that. Reasonable prices, friendly service. The menu is pretty basic, and I don't say that in a bad way. I mean, when you go to a beach bar, you're not looking for pages and pages of a menu. It's kind of I would
You're looking for
say,
a view right near the beach. So you got your burger and you
yes,
got your fries, and then you got the beach, and that's
right,
what you want,
exactly.
right?
Right. And I've been to Dune's house several times to see and listen to Jeff and Daly play music. This is that type of vibe. This isn't right on the dunes like the Dunes house is, but still a beach bar nonetheless. you got 8 burgers, you got 8 hot dogs. One of them is a deep fried pickle dog, which is that sounds awesome. Bratwurst, smoked sausage, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, like 7 different sandwiches: fried bologna, cheesesteak, chicken, fried chicken, Cuban po' boy. So again, a grand total of 21, 22 items on this menu, and price wise, I mean, dude, you can get a beach burger for $8. You can get shrimp po' boy for $12. That's the range of this menu. You get a plain hot dog for $4. Add chili or add chili and cheese, you get for $5. I mean, for that price point, and that's not even mentioning, the beach snacks, which again top out at $12 for boom boom shrimp or chicken and waffles. I mean, I'm dying to get to this place. I'm going to wait until it gets a little bit
Yep.
warmer. I'm going to
Yep.
follow Jessica's instructions for how to get there. And I'm going to carve out an afternoon where I got a couple hours to kill. This is at the top of my list of need to do this summer, right there with pool bar gyms. I got to get to Coco's on the beach and try that burger. Maggie and Jevin did a whole thing where they went on bicycles for Maggie and Jevin doing low country stuff. They started basically by one end of the beach and they went all the way down and they tried like 5 or 6 different burgers. It was
Yeah.
extremely entertaining and engaging.
It's a
Like
fun
I said,
video.
they've been one of my big inspirations, and this was, I think, one of the highlights of the video was this burger.
Yep. All right, so you got Coco's, and then our last honorable mention. We head back over the bridge.
Yes. Now this is one of my favorites. I've talked about it before. I did my very first, when I started getting into doing reels and videos, this was my very first one that I did, because an important place to me from, just being a foodie is your deli. You got your deli and you got your Italian deli. Everybody that likes sandwiches has got each of them. Now, this is honorable mention only because it's not a bar, right? You can't get an alcoholic drink there, although they do quite a bit of catering.
Catering,
And
yes.
yes, this is Downtown Deli and Catering on May River Road in Bluffton. And the reason why they've made this list is because, in addition to the best sandwiches that you're going to find anywhere around here, they have a smash burger and then also a turkey burger for those who are a little bit more health conscious. Their smash burger belongs in this conversation. They do grilled mushrooms and onions, bacon, melted American cheese, and fries. And their crinkle cut fries are excellent.
To die
So
for.
yes, I had to include them in the conversation, even though you can't get a beer there, or even though there's not a bar. This is a deli. I'm constantly blown away by Downtown Deli because, and I don't know, and I apologize if I've mentioned this before. Downtown Deli is lunch only, and it is weekday only.
Yep.
10:30 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. 5 days a week, closed on Saturdays and Sundays. And of course, the catering means that they're catering,
A lot of
probably on
weekend.
a lot of
Yep.
those weekends. And that's probably part of the reason why. But that's what I love about this place, because, like, that's 5 hours.
Yes.
Actually, no, that's 4
4.
hours.
4 hours.
Not even 5 hours.
Yep.
4 hours for 5 days a week. That's a total of 20 hours that they are open in a week. And the amount of business that this place does for lunch, and for, yes, people like myself will pick up sandwich orders for broker tours and open house and things like that. And I love
It's
the
just
fact that,
constant.
yes, it's constant, and they're not limited to just the sandwiches.
Yeah.
They do salads. They do some tacos. And again, because of this category that we're talking about, we could not talk about burgers, even though we're doing bars and burgers, we could not talk about burgers without mentioning the smash burger. And that's why I kind of chuckled when I was doing my little pre-podcast poll and I said, we're doing bars and burgers tomorrow. What's your favorite? And Kristen actually hopped in and said, Downtown Deli. And I gave her like the shush
Yeah.
emoji with a little wink because that was already part of the plan. And like you said, a lot of the times, I'm putting together this list. We'll have a very brief conversation about it before we go into it. And so a lot of times, either in either direction, it will be, did you forget about this one or a reminder about this one? And we both were, in 100% agreement that this had to be included in the conversation.
I felt guilty because it's like I'm just I go way back with Ryan. Like Downtown Deli is OG in terms of just eateries in Bluffton, and so I know that I've talked about them ad nauseum for the last 20 years.
Oh yeah,
And so I was like kind of letting you lead the way there, but I wasn't going to disagree because the burgers are amazing, the fries are amazing. It's the McCarthy's just they do it right. Ryan and Leah,
absolutely.
they do it right. It's a finely tuned machine when you go in there. Their staff is amazing. Um, it's just every dish is coming out with a lot of love, and any dish you get, especially the burgers, it's like never cheated, never cheated. It's like we talk about athletes. It's like when like you're thinking, well, athletes aren't supposed to cheat you. Well, a lot of athletes mail it in and they get away with it. And restaurants can be the same way. And Downtown Deli is not one of those. They will never cheat you.
Never, never. And we talked about in episode 1 when we talked about sandwiches, we said institution.
Yep.
And that is a fact in every possible way. It's amazing to think that a place could be an institution that's open 20 hours a week. But
Yeah.
that just goes to show you how much business that they do in those 4 hours for those 5 days. And obviously they're one of at the top of the list for people when they're looking for not just catering, but catering venues.
Absolutely.
Tim, I want to throw another quick one at you just as a surprise, and I don't want to, this doesn't mean that they're any lesser than, but because we're in March Madness this week, and because we were talking a lot specifically with our bar about where to go to watch a game, I kind of thought of this yesterday, and we're actually reminded myself as we were going through this. I have to at least mention I haven't eaten much there. I've really just done some wings, I think on the bone, but probably more so boneless. I really have not explored more of the menu, but I want to mention here in Bluffton, although it might still be in that little area there that, like I said, that they refer to as still as, it is still considered Hilton Head Island proper, even though it's on our side of the bridge. Bones Bar and Grill,
Yeah.
when you're going somewhere to watch a game, um,
I
I
didn't know where
am,
you were going with this, but yeah.
yeah, I've
Yep.
been to Las Vegas many, many times, and specifically during Wild Card Weekend of the NFL playoffs. WrestleMania is going to be there next month. I'm definitely getting a severe case of FOMO that I'm going to miss out on that for a number of reasons. But I say that because one time we were watching games and we were at, I think it was the sports book at Mandalay Bay. And I always think about this giant wall of televisions. And it was obviously that was a football weekend, but you have these sports books where people are watching all kinds of things, from horse racing to the NCAA tournament. And there's not a place anywhere around here that is going to give you that kind of atmosphere and that kind of vibe. And what I also love about it is I mentioned my friend Eric before. He's a huge Eagles fan. So he's still riding the high of the Super Bowl. I took him there not shortly after. He actually hadn't even moved here yet. He was here for a couple of days for doing some stuff related to either the home purchase or whatever before they actually fully moved here. And we went there and we sat, off to that little side room where we could still see the screens, but we also had the extra screens in that little side room. And he immediately found other Eagle fan friends. I had other people that were Giant fans. There were people wearing jerseys from a bunch of different teams,
They're
and
big Chiefs fans.
big. Yeah, well, Bones. A lot of
Yep.
times he'll wear that Mahomes jersey because
Looks
some
like he
people joke
looks like
around that he looks
Mahomes.
like
Yeah.
he could be his brother. But yeah, I just wanted to mention that again. Great location to. I'm sure going to have a lot of people there this week watching the NCAA's.
I mean,
They got that outside bar
that
area
wall,
too.
that
It's
wall though.
incredible.
I mean, the wall. It's so. I believe it's at least eight different screens. But it will morph. They can morph it whenever they want into 8 games, 4 games, one gigantic game. Oh, it's yeah,
The
dude. Like
Megatron
I
of
didn't even
flats of
realize. Yeah,
televisions.
I didn't even realize you were that big of a March Madness. I mean, March Thursday and Friday on March Madness are my Christmas. They really are. My sports Christmas. I love those days. So listen, I'm throwing it out there. Like I don't know what you're doing Thursday, but I might just be at Bones.
I'll be honest. I could not have less interest in college basketball. I've probably watched a grand total of 5 to 10 minutes
Yep.
at all. This
Yep.
entire
Oh,
Ronan
hi.
Ronan just invaded the studio. I didn't have the
You
door
ask,
closed
we
because
deliver.
I wanted Juno to fidgety little squirrel. I wanted Juno to no, you can't touch that right now. I wanted Juno to be able to get out of here, so I left the door open a crack, and that's all he needed
Yep.
to find the
Nice.
daylight. But yeah, listen, March Madness comes around. I always used to be invited to, watch parties, so to speak. I'll give a shout out to Ken Barron, who's my brother played baseball with his son Kenny for a number of years, and Ken
Nice.
always used to get a group together somewhere in North Jersey to watch the games. My friends of mine, Pete and Jeff, who are attorneys in North Jersey, they started to do a similar thing where they were inviting people to a bar in the Morristown area to watch games. It's a special occasion. It's a time when sports fans, even if they're not specifically college basketball fans, when a sport comes on at 12 o'clock in the afternoon, I'm the same way with baseball. I'm a Mets fan, but I
Yeah.
don't watch really baseball during the regular season. But when the baseball playoffs start and you have an afternoon matinee game, I told you yesterday, why was I rushing back? Why you would drive me back home after we had lunch? Because I wanted to get home to watch Monday Night Raw because they're over
3
in Europe.
p.m.
3 p.m. start time. There's nothing better than watching sports during the day. So I get sucked in. Somebody
And
took a
so
shot at
many of those
Barstool.
and I'm the same way. I do not watch a ton of college basketball. I'm a huge basketball guy. I coach basketball, coach and travel basketball. We're headed to a tournament this weekend. But I don't watch a ton of college basketball until the tournament. I swear, like, you'll have your down years, but my goodness, that Thursday and Friday, if you don't get at least 5 buzzer beaters or five games that go right down to it in those first 2 days, I mean some years you'll get 10 games that well it's all the announcers are amazing. Oh, I love it. I love everything about March Madness. I love doing the brackets. Have no idea what I'm doing because, like you said, don't follow it. Try to follow it the last couple weeks. Have kind of gotten into championship week now, so I've kind of got to. I've watched Duke all year because I love Cooper Flag. He's Maine, so. He is the app. He is. I mean, doesn't even matter what he does in the NBA. He is already an anointed god in the state of Maine.
I'm
So,
glad that he's going to be able to play after that injury that he suffered in the
yep,
ACC
yep,
tournament. But yeah,
yep.
I'm I'm
They're saying
sucked
he's
in
going to
just like
play.
everybody else. Somebody was commenting or posted a Twitter or something like that. Oh, it's a good thing that these guys at Barstool, all of a sudden they care about the NCAA. First of all, it was tone deaf because I don't know there's anybody in the world of sports media that pays more attention to college basketball from beginning to end than Big Cat and Mark Titus and Reeves and some of those
Yes,
guys.
Mark Titus specifically.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, huge. I even get into honestly. I watch the streams. I'll have the game on the TV, and I'll have them. I don't even really need the audio, although there's nothing better than a buzzer beater specifically with who's the guy? Who's the
Gus
guy that?
Johnson.
Yes, Gus. I mean, if you have not experienced a buzzer beater in the NCAA tournament and a game that is broadcasted where the announcer is Gus Johnson, and honestly, like again, I'm not the biggest college basketball guy, but became a big raftery guy over the years. You know,
Onions.
yes, exactly. My buddy Kevin texts onions constantly. He's a big
Yep.
basketball guy too. So, and also, I want to give a shout out to my uncle Jack, who's no longer with us. This was a big deal. You know, it was a big deal for his son John. We call him Woodsy because his name's John Woods. And I got to because after my uncle Jack had passed away, we kind of wanted to have Ronan cut it out.
I was gonna
Sorry.
say you got to be watching Ronan right now.
Yeah. He's trying to go after my iPod cable right now. But yeah, we kind of did it as a tribute to him the year after he passed away because it was a very special thing for John, for Woodsy, around the time of the tournament, because that was the couple of days that he would spend with his dad. And his dad was a big Seton Hall basketball fan. Obviously hardcore New Jersey person if you're behind Seton Hall. This year we got St. John's coming back in a big way, which is really
Oh
cool.
my.
I used to enjoy a lot of Big East tournament type of stuff back in the day, especially when Boston College was a part of that. So yeah, one of my fondest memories was senior year of college. Big East regular season tournament champion, Big East tournament champions. We didn't last that long. I think it was that Kelly's Pub was that year, might have been, that we ended up going to the tournament. But regardless, it's a special time of year. And I think it was good that it synced up with places to go, bars to go and enjoy a burger and have some beers. And I'm not going to make any promises because you know me, I'm a homebody when it comes to watching
Yep.
games and things like that. But I might have to join you out there because the fever pitch is certainly at a crescendo when you get to especially the first couple of days of the tournament.
It's the one day, honestly, I'm the same way. I'm a homebody, especially with sports. I like to be where I like to be where I like to be. I don't want to be interrupted. If I want to yell at television, I'm going to yell at television. I know they can't hear me. I get it, but so it's the one day I make an exception. I always used to do it in New York. I'd find a different place every year to go and just hang out and absorb the crowd, because I love people watching. And whatchamacallit, the last time my alma mater, Fordham, made the tournament was 90, which I was there on a visit. It was the year before my freshman year. I was there on a visit when they won the Patriot League tournament, and then they went on to play Marcus Camby's UMass and got pretty demolished. But that was the last time. That next year we actually beat St. John's at Rose Hill, which was the greatest moment that I've ever had, like live, just pandemonium. And so to see St. John's doing what they're doing, it's awesome. And yeah, the Bones, great way to wrap it up. Great burger too. I mean, that's why they belong in the honorable mention for sure. So, all right.
Absolutely.
So, if you had told me we were gonna be on the cusp of, and by the way, I can do some wrap up stuff here if you need to take care of Ronan.
No, Jocelyn
Okay,
just took him out.
she did.
He's been
Okay,
bounced.
all
Yep.
right. So if you told me we were going to be on the verge of 3 hours with burgers, I would have laughed at you. I went from cleanly shaven to a 5 o'clock shadow as we do approach the 5 o'clock hour. I have been holding in body fluids for about the last, because I drank a full coffee mug and I drank a full Gatorade Zero during the broadcast. So well played, my friend. We did it. You did it. So excited. I mean, let's give some shout outs. Let's first say huge thank you to Anthony Muscolo, luxury real estate advisor serving Bluffton, Hilton Head, in the Low Country. 347-739-5984. Proud member of Keller Williams Low Country, Anthony and Co. Homes. indulgentislander.com. Huge shout out to Anthony. Shout out to Lulu Kitchen, your next favorite dining destination, upscale American cuisine helmed by acclaimed chef Scott Hastings, the very aforementioned Scott Hastings and his wife Jennifer, who could not be sweeter. My goodness, I am a hugger, so like I saw she went right in for the hug with you, and I was like, bring it in, bring in the hug. I don't, so that was awesome. She's a good hugger. Spring menu has sprung. Come sample it. Join them for Easter on April 20th. Make your reservations now. For menus and to reserve online, lulukitchen-hhi.com. 890 William Hilton Parkway, Suite 1, 843-648-5858. And AMA Private Dining, Antonio Mancini Albano Private Chef Services, top-rated personalized chef services serving Beaufort County, Savannah, Charleston, and the surrounding areas. Book Antonio now at amaprivatedining.com, 908-477-6043. Cannot thank the sponsors enough. This is a labor of love for Nick and I, the hope, obviously the hope was that it would catch on. You just never know. We were going to do it regardless because it needs to be done. But 5,000 views on this on Facebook after the first 36 hours last week. We can't thank you enough. We really can't. It's really been a fun ride so far. You're about as real as it gets, and I've had a blast doing this with you so far. We mentioned it. You've hopefully been listening on the podcast. Check us out: Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, Podbean, iHeart Podcasts, anywhere you find your favorite podcasts. And if you've been listening on the podcast and you haven't watched us yet, I hope you will, because we put a lot of time into the visual parts of this. Watch us on YouTube, on your phones, your tablets, your TV, and catch all the episodes at youtube.com at the Indulgent Islander /at the Indulgent Islander. Just search up Indulgent Islander on YouTube or on Google. You'll find the full complement of broadcasts there. Shout outs, like we said, huge shout out to the viewers, to the listeners. We love what we do. We love that you're loving the podcast. We are so open to suggestions. We got people lobbying us now, Nick. I mean, people heard it was going to be bars and burgers, and some of these restaurants, some of the tap rooms. By the way, we're doing breweries. Okay, so we're not leaving you out. We are doing breweries. Yes, it's a food podcast. Breweries go well with any food, so we want to include them. So I said to Shona and Russell at Locals Only Tap Room, yeah, I know you've got the food trucks there, and but don't worry, we're doing breweries. You're gonna have your shot then. But I love the fact that people are listening and actually starting to, whether it's restaurateurs or listeners, even before we put polls up to ask their opinions, they're lobbying us with their own takes. I love it. And listen, we would be idiots if we didn't put much love out to our wives, Jocelyn, Debbie. They have put up with our obsession and all this podcast silliness so far. We're starting to make some money doing it. so we're not full on suckers now. But huge thank you to the families, to our listeners, to our pets. You saw Ronan there. We'll talk more about our furry friends in the future. I do want to say the Indulgent Islander Podcast is a production of Over Media. You want us to produce your podcast? We would love to. Call or text us and that'd be me, 843-290-6242, or email timewood@gmail.com. So proud to be part of this, Nick. So grateful is a word you've used a lot of times, and that's really how I'm feeling with all this. And I was so giddy to show you all the graphics and all the stuff I came up with in the lab, because I know how much you care about this stuff, and so we want to do it right by you.
You stole the word out of my head before when you were saying that you're having a blast. I was going to say the exact same thing. I'm having an absolute blast doing this. Excuse me. I'm loving all of the feedback and all of the chatter on social media, specifically on Facebook. Yes, I've mentioned many times how grateful I am just to be a part of this food scene here in some small way. And I'm excited because even though we've done 9 episodes and we're coming on episode 10 next week, which is breakfast and brunch.
Ooh.
Yeah, that's an exciting one. We're only scratching the surface, not just in terms of what we're going to cover, but what we're going to be doing. The podcast is obviously the central. It's the focus of this collaborative effort. But as we've mentioned before, we're going to start working on putting together some events and things like that. And I
The
should mention,
website.
yes, the website is coming along. I should mention that I did post this the other day. If anyone is interested in becoming a sponsor, contact Tim or myself anytime.
Absolutely.
I knew that he had something special planned visually. I got to take a sneak peek at it yesterday, and I was super, super excited. I know Tim was really pumped for me to see it, and more importantly, for all of you guys to see it. So just, keep an eye out, stay on board with us. Excuse me, keep the chatter and the feedback going. I made the mistake again as we get here towards the 5 o'clock hour of not eating anything other than a banana before we started recording. So I am starving at this point. But again, had an absolute blast talking bars and burgers with you, bud. I'm pumped next week for breakfast and brunch, one of our favorite categories as diners, right? As foodies. And after that, like we've said before, we're going to start talking some sushi, some Chinese food, some other Asian food. And we got a bunch of stuff planned after that. Like Tim said, we're going to do breweries and tap rooms, plural. We're going to have an entire episode dedicated to some of the healthier options in the area. We've yet to talk about steakhouses and things like that. And then, as we continue down the road, we'll start to tweak it a little bit where we might go away from, the general outline of just focus on a specific category. And we're going to see where the road takes us because Lord knows, if we're covering 5 or 6 of these and we've done, 9 of them, we mentioned a lot of other places during the episodes, but that puts us at about 50 or so different businesses, 50 to 60, right? Establishments, businesses between this week and next week. There are upwards of 500, restaurants or food trucks or
Exactly.
any sort of establishments, just in Bluffton and Hilton Head alone. We have not spoken at length about private chefs. Obviously
Yep.
Antonio is a sponsor, but we
You
want to
know
get
so
into
much
that.
about so much about Savannah. We know there's some good stuff in Hardyville. There yeah, there's a lot of different places we can go. We're on the back half of season 1 now, but
Right.
my goodness, there's so many places we can go with this. I'm excited. So many, like, I mean, I've mentioned so many specific foods to you. Like, I'm just like giddy at the possibilities where we go with this. This is fun, dude.
As the old saying goes, and this is one of the things that I follow when I'm out there eating, right? variety is the spice of life. It's in terms of content and also in terms of, going out there and trying a whole bunch of different things. And we're going to have more guests coming. Antonio is going to join us in the next couple of weeks. As we said, he's super, super busy. So we're going to nail him down. I think we actually have him scheduled we have a time slot for him scheduled for this week. Okay, cool. So we're going to get that in, and I think we're done. We're done with today. We're going to let you guys get back to your week. I hope everybody enjoys NCAA tournament this weekend. I hope everybody enjoys Wing Fest coming up a week, not this weekend, but the weekend after, correct?
Yep.
And then I think Wine and Food Festival is the weekend after that, right? Is that the last weekend in March?
Yep.
And then that puts us into April, which is, now we're back to business in Hilton Head, right? We're back to, vacations and tourists. I know we got some spring break stuff already creeping in this week and probably next week as well. So there'll be a lot more to talk about. Like I said, this isn't just for locals, it's for tourists, it's for everybody. Anybody and everybody that loves this area and wants to come and eat, we're going to tell you where to go, what to do, and we hope that you will continue to enjoy the stuff that we're putting out there. So thank you all very much for your support. We are very appreciative of it.
Absolutely. All right. We're signing off for this week. Episode 9 in the books. Let's get some...
Stay hungry, my friend.
Let's get a little music going in the background.
An outro.
All right. Tim Wood, thrilled to be with you. At Low Crying, you see it on the screen. Take it away, Nick.
Stay hungry, my friends. We'll see you guys next week.